26, 2020 at 4:07 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order and hand it over to Ms. Liz for the reading of statement.
Thank you. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6 et sec, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by publication in the Star Ledger and Luso Americano newspapers and by posting on the website and administrative offices of the Newark Public Schools. A copy of this notice has been sent to the office of the City of Newark for posting. This is a regular meeting of the Newark Board of Education, Thursday, March 26, 2020.
If everyone can please join me for the flag salute. Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
United
States of America,
and to the
republic
which is
one
nation under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all. Roll call, Brenda.
Roll call. Ms. Anderson?
Present.
Mr. Bledsoe? Ms. Garcia?
Present.
Ms. Gomez?
present.
Ms. Haynes? Ms. Hill?
Present.
Ms. Murray Thomas?
Present.
Ms. Norton? Mr. Padilla?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Liz. I would like to now begin with the President's report. Good evening, fellow board members, Superintendent Leon, staff, students, families, and constituents. I'm Josephine Garcia, President of the Board of Education. Welcome to the district's first virtual board meeting. We are excited to see that so many of you were able to join us this afternoon. I can only imagine the number of virtual meetings and conference calls you have participated in over the past few days. If your experience has been anything like mine, you had some technical glitches. Let's keep our fingers crossed that technology is on our side tonight and everyone who wanted to join us tonight was able to do so. It's been a tough couple of weeks. I want you to know that we are in this together. Keeping our students, families, staff, and community safe is important to me and my board colleagues. And making sure that our students and staff have the resources they need to work virtually is also essential. While the full extent of COVID-19 crisis is yet not known, the impact it has on everyone cannot be ignored. We are doing things we normally would not do. We may yell a little louder or more often. For those of us who have furry friends, we find ourselves talking to our pets, like me sometimes. For others who live alone, you may be having conversations with yourself. I think it is safe to say that none of us who have lived an experience quite like this one. We must continue to practice social distancing while out and about, wash our hands often, clean and sanitize surfaces as part of our daily routine. We must also follow Mayor Baraka's directives to shelter in place and respect the curfew in order to flatten the curve in our city. We now have a COVID-19 testing site at Weequahic Park for our Newark residents and residents around the Essex County area. You must make an appointment in advance in order to get tested. We take this opportunity to give a huge thank you to NPS staff who are providing essential services during this time, the food service workers that are preparing and distributing meals daily at 16 locations, along with custodians who are cleaning and sanitizing all school buildings and central office, the security staff who are making sure that our buildings are safe, to our healthcare workers and our first responders, and finally to the students who are working diligently on their learning at home plans, and the teachers, administrators, and central staff who support them. We owe you a debt of gratitude. Just a couple of shout outs to Miss Lee of Salome Ureña Elementary School for her daily virtual reading classes, and Mr. Michael Dixon for his virtual mathematical classes, who's also known now as #MathematicalMike. The superintendent reminds us that we need to have a sense of normalcy during our new reality. So with that, I have two important reminders for you. Census 2020. Some of you have already completed the census, which is great. By now, you probably have received the code in the mail with instructions to complete it online. Everyone in America, and especially the people in our great city, must be counted. The census began on March 12th and it ends July 30th. So take the census. Take it online, by mail, over the phone. Everyone counts. Citizens, non-citizens, babies, our abuelitas, everyone. So wash your hands, stay home, and take the census. The 2020 school board election has been rescheduled for Tuesday, May 12th. It is important because our residents will vote for the 2020 school budget. Please say yes to the ballot question regarding our school budget. This election will be different because you will vote by mail. You will need to watch the mail for your ballot, complete it, and mail it before the deadline. The budget hearing will begin following this public meeting. We will take a short break between meetings. In lieu of our committee reports, which you can now access on our NPS website, I would like to extend my colleagues 1 minute to address our listeners with a brief statement. I will start with Board Member Anderson.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I just want to, it's tough times for everyone. But I just want to thank the staff, the superintendent for all the work that they're doing in this time. It's really rough. And so I just want to say to everybody to be encouraged and to, just follow the rules, what everybody's saying, what is being said, that we need to stay in our homes and we need to, follow the mayor's advice, and so that we can see an end to this. So I just want to thank everyone again. And I miss my colleagues. I miss being with you all there, but I hope everyone is safe and happy and enjoying time with their family. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Anderson. I'll move on now to Board Member Bledsoe if he's on the line. I'll move on to Board Member Gomez.
Thank you, Board Chair Garcia. I'd just like to echo my board colleague, Board Member Anderson's sentiments, thanking all of our staff, our food service employees, our janitors, our security. In these times, they are essential for us, and they have shown us that they are, they're our front line. So I want to thank them. I want to thank parents who have, really have stepped up and have taken the role of making sure that their kids are doing what they're supposed to be doing at home. I want to thank the students for being patient, and for those students who are following along and doing what they're supposed to be doing. I want to thank them, and I just also want to say, just to follow the guidelines put out by the city. This is it's serious, and it's something that we should all be abiding to. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Board Member Gomez. I'll move on to Board Member Johnson.
Board Member Johnson here. Good evening, everybody. Just want to echo my colleagues as well and just say hi to my colleagues. Good evening to you guys all. I know we guys haven't been chatting a lot. Thank you, Superintendent, for the work that you're doing. Thank you, Miss Wilson. I know me and you have been text messaging. Thank you for our board relations staff who's been doing an awesome job. Just thank you to all our district employees who have stepped up and gone beyond, above and beyond, just to make sure our students and our parents are being informed and just having all the necessary tools that they need to get through this whole thing. And just to echo what my colleague said, like, listen to our mayor, listen to our governor. I was going to say our president, but you know how that goes, but just listen to our mayor and just follow all the precautions and the steps that he's taking us to take. And one group of students that is really near and dear to my heart right now at this time is our seniors. If we have any seniors out there that's listening for the class of 2020, just know that, we are going to push through this. We're going to make sure that you guys get all that you deserve. We know that you guys pushed through for this moment for the past 12 to 13 years, and you're not going unnoticed. My son has been telling me every other day, so we just going to graduate from Google School. But just to let you know that we guys hear you, we're here for you. And I just want to give another shout out to our truancy task force today who went above and beyond, who's been delivering packets to parents who weren't able to get there, who's been delivering Chromebooks to parents who weren't able to get there. And they are being cautious and keeping the 6 foot. They're calling to let them know when they're leaving it in their mailbox. And I just want to thank them personally for the awesome job that they're doing on behalf of the board members, because I know they will echo my sentiments as well. We just gonna make it through this, guys. We're no stronger. We're just gonna keep pushing. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Johnson. Now I'll move on to Board Member Dorian Murray Thomas. Is Dorian here?
She said she was having some difficulties with her phone.
I saw her through the computer earlier. Okay, we'll circle back around if she joins us. I'll move on to Board Member Norton. Board Member Norton, unmute yourself. So you want to give some comments? I'll move on to Board Member Padilla.
Good evening, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Superintendent, my fellow colleagues. I do miss you guys. But at this time, I think the most important thing is that we're all on the same page on this. We're all talking about staying home, doing what's in the best interest for the kids and our families. But I really, really have to take a deep and personal touch on this, on the operations team, Steve Marlino and his team, for getting in all these buildings and doing this work. We've been talking about it now at the past 2 committee meetings, and this is something that needs to be taken extremely serious. And I'm glad that we're all taking it that way. And at the end of the day, I think something that my board member colleague, Felicia Johnson, just mentioned, we're North strong. So we have to just keep that way. And I think all of you guys are doing a fabulous job. And congratulations to the superintendent again, doing a magnificent job of what you're doing. But again, my heart is really with the operations team. You guys are doing a fabulous job. Keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Padilla. I would like to now actually turn it over to our student representative, Bruno Colejo. I'm not sure if he's on the line.
I joined, so may I address the group?
Oh, Board Member Bledsoe, welcome.
Reggie!
Thank
All
you.
right,
Hello.
I'd like to turn it over to Board Member Bledsoe for a statement.
Hello, everybody. First,
Hi.
I would like to thank the team, for their tireless work. Definitely would like to thank our families and our students for bearing with us during this difficult time. We are in very unprecedented times. To be able to, get remote learning off the ground in a matter of over a weekend, that's amazing. And I just would like to commend the operations team and the various school locations that are providing meals to our students each and every day. You know, I just commend and take my hat off to everyone for keeping us together and keeping us strong during these difficult times, as scary as it is. So kudos and thank you all for everything that you do.
Thank you, Board Member Bledsoe. I'm not sure if Board Member Murray Thomas is back on. She was trying to get back on. Or Board Member Norton. I don't think they're on, so I'm going to continue with my report. In lieu of our committee reports, which you can now access on our NPS website, I would like to extend my colleagues the 1 minute, which I just did for the brief statement. I will come back to Board Members Norton and Board Member Murray Thomas. I would like to put a motion on the record. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Which board member was that?
Board Member Gomez.
Second,
Second by,
Anderson.
thank you, Gomez and Anderson. So my motion reads, although as president, I'm calling for this motion, this is really a motion of the entire board. Given the current world and national health crisis, today's New Jersey disaster declaration made by the President of the United States and announced by Governor Phil Murphy, the state of emergency and public health emergency declared by our governor, and the shelter-in-place and travel restrictions ordered by Mayor Ras J. Baraka of the City of Newark, I move that the Board of Education temporarily adjust and waive its bylaws, policies, and procedures to extend necessary to allow the business of the board to continue and to authorize the superintendent to take any and all action necessary and appropriate in his discretion for the efficient and effective governance and operation of the school district during this state of emergency and public health crisis until further notice, provided that any action taken pursuant to this authority shall be subject to ratification by the board. Here are several examples of the educational legislation approved to address the COVID-19 threat. So several that were passed by our Senate on March 19th were the Hungry Free Students Bill Act, A1104, our virtual instruction, A3813, our school meals, A3840, our access to technology, A3842, our Oprah response, A3849, our remote meetings, A3850, food access information, A3855, and our broadband access, AJR158. Any discussion by board members?
Few things.
Regarding the motion,
Yeah.
Board Member Bledsoe?
Are we voting on the motion or are we voting on the president's report? Because as a point of parliamentary procedure, I think that we should conclude the president's report and then go to the business of the meeting and actually put the motion on the floor then, and then have the vote and the discussion. Or unless you're asking us to vote on this under the president's report.
Yeah, I was requesting for it to be voted on under the president's report.
To know from general counsel and the board secretary, what is the
Ms.
procedure?
Liss?
Ms. Liss, we can't hear you. Oh, there we go.
I don't think it's inappropriate for the motion to be made under the president's report. First, the motion, if there's a second, that motion can be acted upon. And that's what we have now, a motion and a second. We're now in discussion on that motion. If there's no further discussion, we can take a vote.
So my question, Madam President, is I appreciate the intent, and the intent is great. I just would like to know, I'm trying to understand what is the intent, and legally, are we suspending every existing policy and procedure in the district, or are there certain policies that we're temporarily suspending, or we're just throwing everything out the window and we're just suspending everything? I'm just trying to understand from a legal perspective what's happening, and technically, I oftentimes review my notes from NJSBA often, and the discussion around the state at this point is that governance shall be maintained by boards of education despite classrooms, auditoriums, and school gyms, things of that nature not being ever used. I'm curious to making sure that we're being consistent with DOE guidelines and that we're being consistent with NJSBA recommendations. I'm just trying to understand what's happening. I know that the intent is great and it does allow us to act in times of emergencies, but I'm trying to understand what policies are we suspending? Are we suspending all of them? Are we suspending all of the series? What specifically are we doing? Because I think
talking about the meeting.
it should be.
So board member Bledsoe, if I may. So we're suspending all the bylaws right now in order to continue with the crisis that's occurring in the state of New Jersey right now, and with Governor Murphy's 401 bill. We're suspending all of them so we can continue to have virtual meetings. As I stated to you when I spoke to you yesterday, continue to have our committee meetings and allow the superintendent to continue to conduct the business of the district. Am I correct in saying that, Ms. Liss?
Yes, you're correct. The language of the motion is that the board shall adjust and waive its bylaws, policies, and procedures to the extent necessary to allow the business of the board to continue, and to authorize the superintendent to take any and all action necessary and appropriate in his discretion for the efficient and effective governance and operation of the school district. We have not specified which ones those will be. It will be any and all that are necessary in order to accomplish those purposes.
And this is something that Board Member Bledsoe, that I did circle back around with and had a webinar with NJSBA and other board presidents and other school districts that have also followed the same guideline in order for us to continue to conduct business during this crisis. And until it's over, we do not know when this is going to be over. What we can forecast is that it's not going to be over anytime soon. So we need to allow our superintendent to run the district to his best ability.
I understand that, and I don't have a problem with that. The thing is, I just think, and Ms. Liss, I think at some point we should talk about to suspend the entire bylaws. I don't know what the bylaws say, and as it relates to the suspension of policy. And I think at this time it would have been appropriate to have that specific language. You've reviewed it anyway. So. The bylaws do address the suspension of policies, as I mentioned to you, Madam President, and to actually reference that foul code and that policy would have been so helpful for this motion, and I wouldn't be asking these questions. And I thought that once we had our conversation, that conversation probably would have taken place with the actual language in the bylaws, which actually already gives the superintendent the authority to act in certain circumstances of emergency.
But it doesn't allow the board members to continue to have our virtual meetings, to have our committee meetings, which will be coming up in a week, to have our board meetings remotely.
I'm fine with even the way it's written, the policy allows already the superintendent to waive these types of things. Like if it's a virtual meeting as discussed, it's already allowed. And actually under the Division of Local Government Services, it already addressed policies that are available to do this. But I'm not going to keep the discussion long on this.
So can we have a vote?
It already
can we have a vote?
Okay.
It already allows him to do it. So I just think it's beating a dead horse. So.
In order for
Thank you, Board Member Bledsoe. Ms. Liss, can we have a vote, please?
In order for the vote to be recorded, every vote today is going to be a roll call vote. So, Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Madam Chair, respectfully, is there still time for discussion, or are we concluding the discussion portion?
I understood the president to call for a vote.
Yes.
We have Ms. Anderson, yes. Mr. Bledsoe? Mr. Bledsoe? Ms. Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Gomez?
Yes.
Ms. Haynes? Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Murray Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Norton, I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Padilla?
Yes.
Motion carries. Mr. Bledsoe, do you want to vote? I didn't hear you. Okay, motion carries.
I'm going to vote yes reluctantly because this already exists.
Thank you so much, Board Member Bledsoe. I want to circle back around to, in my president's report, to allow Board Member Murray Thomas and Board Member Norton to, if you have a statement for the community regarding our current crisis or would like to give any words. I'll start with Board Member Murray Thomas.
Thank you, Board President. Good evening, Board Member, Superintendent, Executive Staff, community, and families. I'd like to echo the tone of the meeting, which is first just giving thanks to the resilience of our students, of our parents, for making sure that even in these extremely challenging times that we make sure our students still learn and feel loved and seen and are nurtured both at home and at their school buildings. I live literally across the street from Camden, and I can't even tell you the number of times that I see kids run into the building to get meals, to get their packets, and frankly, that energy of making sure that we're taking care of our kids, whether they're in our classrooms or they're at home, is just completely permeated across the whole city and across the district. So I just want to send my deepest thanks and gratitude to our incredibly hardworking teachers, our principals, our per diem staff, our executive staff, our folks who are cleaning the buildings, everybody who is making this work, the leadership of our superintendent for making sure that from the top down, our young people have what they need. And look, you know, we don't have all the answers. None of us do. This is new for all of us, both as a district and other districts across the country, but I'm confident that we'll figure this out together. And so I just thank everybody for making this happen. Rob, shout out to you for helping me with all the technical difficulties I've been having. And I think that we're gonna come out of this stronger. Thank you, Board President.
Thank you very much, Board Member Murray Thomas. I would like to now turn it over to Board Member Norton.
Yes, and so good evening, community, board colleagues, superintendent, parents, guardians, aunts, uncles. Thank you so much for the community coming together in this time. As a parent, I think you all saw my son coming in and out on the screen. And so just like many parents, figuring out what does it mean to homeschool our students. I am an educator, and so my son kind of has, I kind of understand a little bit more things to do with him, but the resources that the district has shared with our families, seeing teachers post things on Facebook, Instagram, all these different media outlets, it truly does show a sense of community and the importance that we take on for our education for our students. And I sincerely have to thank our teachers for coming up with innovative ways of educating our students, our children. It's definitely, no one could have seen this happen, but everyone has truly stepped up to the plate and taken this very serious. I definitely want to acknowledge Superintendent Leon and his leadership team for being very proactive in this manner. There were school districts in the state and the nation that were not prepared, but when we officially announced for our district that our district was going to close, our schools were going to close, we were very prepared and had things in place such as having sites for families to pick up breakfast and lunch for their students. And so again, some districts, this took them by, this was a curveball for them, but not for our district. And I definitely want to publicly thank Superintendent Leon for his leadership. And just to echo during board member Murray Thomas sentiments of everyone is truly learning what to do. No one is truly prepared for this. No one could have foreseen this happening, but we're definitely taking it one step at a time. And so thank you, Board President.
Thank you very much, Board Member Norton. This concludes my board chair report. I would like to now turn it over to Superintendent Leon for the superintendent's report. Superintendent Leon.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board, staff, and members of the community. Currently have over 100 people watching this board meeting, and I am really thankful to all of them for doing so, and reminding everyone who is on the dais or has been on the dais to mute your phone, mute your communications when you are not speaking. Given the realities of COVID-19 today, I would like to begin by taking this opportunity to thank all of the parents and students, principals and administrators, teachers, nurses, student support staff, faculty, and all staff members, both at the schools and in central office. More specifically, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the custodial staff, security staff, and especially the food service staff that are serving our students at this most critical time. In addition, I would like to thank and commend all of the district staff, whether in central office or at the schools, who have assisted and continue to assist in the distribution of Chromebooks to our students who are in the greatest need of free online access. While I made the decision to begin learning at home plans to start on March 16th, I would like to take this opportunity to remind everyone that the district's efforts to protect our students and staff began over 1 month ago. The facilities department began our intensive cleaning initiative as a prelude to assisting us in being more prepared today. In early March, and again a few weeks ago, the principals and nurses received firsthand information from the director of Newark's health department, Dr. Wade, and nurses began to share preventative measures directly to our students and staff under the direction of our very own health director, Dr. Loisy. In our new normal today, students are completing their learning at home plans, and central office and all of our schools are operating virtually, and that will continue until further notice. The current learning at home plans will take us to April 3rd, and on April 6th, we will begin what I am calling phase 2 of the learning at home plans, which will be all online. Schools are reaching out to identified families in need of free online access or technology or both, and will make sure that everyone has what they need. All of the learning at home plans were created by the Office of Academic Services, Office of Teaching and Learning, Office of Early Childhood, Office of Special Education, and instructional staff from across all of the schools. Thank you for an incredible job, and thank all of you for the work we are already have prepared for the weeks ahead and the ongoing planning. Finally, I want to thank all of the members of the executive staff for their leadership and perseverance at this time. I'm actually very proud of you and of all of our staff. While we may not be able to predict the future well, and interestingly enough, Board Member Norton spoke about this in her remarks, we can plan to be able to address it in the best way possible. And that is what we have done, and that is what we will continue to do. To my students, we've got this. No obstacle will ever prevent you from accomplishing great things. I apologize that in your lifetime, you have had to experience several unfortunate realities, some within the control of adults, and others that will force you to question your own belief system. I am here to tell you that the reason why we're going to get through this with bruises and bumps nonetheless along the way is because of you. I have had so many conference calls and meetings in the last 2 weeks and have been a part of major decisions that I know are destined to impact and save lives. I am so proud of the opportunity to join the mayor and the city officials and be in the room. You are to listen to all of the orders of the mayor, and he's making really difficult decisions, but they are to protect you, your families, and all of us. I need you to stay at home. In addition, I actually want to thank the governor, the commissioner, our county superintendent, our local county and state officials, and my fellow superintendents, not only in Essex County, but throughout New Jersey and this country, for their leadership and their assistance. To my high school seniors, well, you already know that the class of 2020, my second graduating class as superintendent, was not going to be undone. And not to make light at all of our current realities, the class of 2020, these last few weeks have been somewhat excessive. I met with your principals yesterday at a virtual meeting, and they will be sharing revised prom plans with class advisors if and when necessary. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully, this will all begin to move behind us, and we can celebrate graduation ceremonies as we originally designed. But I don't want to get too ahead of us. I didn't want you to think that what's important to you was also not important to us. Now, we are going to receive 3 briefings from Health Services, Facilities, and the Food Services Department. But before that occurs, it is extremely important that our citizens are aware that the election, which has been moved to May 12th, is a very important one. You can select 3 candidates of your choosing, and I implore you that I need you to vote yes on the budget. All of our citizens, I need you voting yes on the budget. Today, I met with over 300 central office employees virtually, and unless otherwise noticed, we will adhere to all of the dates that are in the calendars that have been distributed to everyone, whether it's in the district in central office or in the district at our schools, and to all of the parents. So whatever has been scheduled, that is what we will obviously be following. Everyone is already aware that the state's waiver on the state assessments has in fact been approved by the president and issued obviously by our governor. So we want to take advantage of this extremely important time to make sure that we're focusing on all of our learning at home plans and everything that your teachers are giving you, because we know that every day that you're not in school with this redesign is a day of learning at home. Good Friday is on the 10th. Spring break takes us through the 17th. And what I've usually done in the past, and I know some people might be upset about it today, all of the breaks, summer break, winter break, spring break, I always say, give them a lot of work to do. But I'm letting all of my students and staff know that from Good Friday to the end of spring break, no work. But I need the students to make sure that you're following all of the directions and the guidelines of the CDC. That has to occur every day. I need folks to be staying at home and doing a lot of thinking about the importance of much work that we have ahead of us. Dr. Loisy will begin with the briefing on health services, followed by Mr. Morellino with facilities, and we will end the superintendent's report with Dr. McGill in food services.
Good afternoon, board members, superintendent, and members of the public.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon, board members, superintendent, and members of the public. I am Dr. Loisy, Director of Health Services at the Newark Board of Education. The Office of Health Services is maintaining surveillance for COVID-19, which is scientifically based and has a strong community focus. In order to meet best practices and safeguard our students, families, staff, and community members, we have followed daily updates from the CDC, New Jersey Department of Health, and the Newark Department of Health and Community Wellness. This up-to-date information has allowed the Office of Health Services to communicate the best prevention strategies to all we serve in preparation for what we are living right now. In trying to best forecast these developments, the Office of Health Services began introducing preventative measures at least a month ago. The Office of Health Services has incorporated our response to include the most appropriate resources available. Dr. Wade, the director of the Newark Department of Health and Community Wellness, spoke at the monthly superintendent's principals meeting on March 4th concerning COVID-19. Subsequently, on March 5th, an administrative team led by Mr. Leone participated in a tabletop exercise. This work included all hospitals, police, fire, emergency responders, university, and many social service agencies. Scenarios of possible disasters were presented and solutions were proposed by all entities present. Additionally, on the district-wide Staff Development Day, March 11th, Dr. Wade presented to the Newark public school nurses with time for questions and answers. His focus was to keep nurses abreast of what is occurring and make recommendations on how we could assist. Our work continues daily with the Newark Department of Health and Community Wellness as we follow through with reports of positive confirmations and exposures and take the proper actions to maintain everyone's safety and health. As one aspect of a larger system, the Office of Health Services is engaged in supporting a safe environment for the city and the county. School nurses are actively contacting parents in their school buildings to provide guidance as needed. Priority has been given to the families of students with significant medical conditions and daily medications at the school. Newark Public School nurses are cooperating with the Newark Department of Health and Community Wellness to assist with screening employees and visitors to City Hall. Thermometers have been shared with the City of Newark to enable screenings of all emergency responders. School nurses will be supporting hospitals to allow safe and effective care for all residents. Additionally, school nurses have volunteered to support the Essex County of the County Executive in screening residents at the drive-through testing site at Weekway Park. All of this work that the school nurses are doing is above and beyond their duties to the students in the district. Please follow the CDC to obtain the most current, up-to-date information. The Office of Poison Control can be contacted for general information at 1-800-222-1222. That is again 1-800-222-1222 with any questions. Thank you very much.
Are we moving on to Mr. Morlino, Superintendent Leon?
Good evening, Superintendent, board members, staff, community members. I was asked this evening if I would give a presentation and an overview of what facilities has been doing in regard to cleaning our schools in regard to the COVID-19 virus. So in actually late in February 27th, we put out a circular to all of our custodial staff members, and we had a meeting to discuss pandemic type influenza high contact surface cleaning. That was an initiative that we took very seriously, and we stressed to everyone the need to start cleaning our school buildings, and especially high touch, high contact surfaces such as cafeteria tables, computer keyboards, desktops, student desktops, doorknobs, door pulls, drinking fountains, faucets, elevator buttons, faucet knobs, any fitness equipment, flush valves, handrails throughout the district, towel dispenser levers, locker room benches, push plates, toilet stall doors and latches, Chronos biometric readers where everyone clocks in every day, light switches, telephone handsets, etc. It was an extensive program in order to reduce any potential bacterial growth on those surfaces. This was a preventative measure to reduce the possibility of cross-contamination in our school environment. Every surface was cleaned with a detergent, a hydrogen peroxide cleaner, and a product approved by the district for specific outbreaks of additional types of influenza. We stressed the fact that additional dwell time or contact time of the cleaner on the surfaces was necessary for sanitation and disinfection. All of the products we use are EPA registered disinfectants, and they carry a broad spectrum kill claim with the proper time on contacted surfaces. We also implemented a planned deep cycle cleaning and disinfecting of our schools at that time. Prior to the schools being done virtually, the first grouping of schools began March 7th and 8th. We started to utilize the EvaClean electrostatic spray equipment that the district purchased. In that equipment, we used a botanical disinfectant, which is an extremely effective disinfectant. However, it requires no personal protective equipment or rinsing when using that product. The electrostatic equipment allows it to totally encompass the surface above, below, and behind pieces of equipment without actually touching the equipment. And then on March 11th, we were notified that the People's Prep Charter School had a potentially exposed individual. The district immediately dispatched a team of 31 specially trained custodians. Thanks to Wally Thomas and his team, we trained 31 people. They were dispatched to Camden Middle School to the campus, and the team immediately started to clean, sanitize, and disinfect all of the vertical, horizontal surfaces in and around the building. This included lenses of cameras, it included the doorknobs, it included a whole host. Every surface in the building was wiped down. Special emphasis was, again, given the high contact areas. The team also disinfected the exterior of the building, the handrails, the door handles, etc. And it was done under the supervision and direction of the custodial operations director, Mr. Wally Thomas, and a custodial supervisor, Michael Burton. The work was completed that evening, and all the PPE equipment, personal protective equipment, clothing, etc., was disposed of. Coincidentally, on that same day, prior to that notification, all of the facilities custodians and custodial staff attended a professional development training session, which was conducted by one of our professional vendors. And they went through the proper use and application of disinfectants. It was a very timely professional development. The fact that the staff are our first line of defense in any type of situation like this was stressed to all the attendees. We had good participation from the attendees, lots of questions and answers were given, and all of those attendees are receiving the certification certificate. On March 13th, when Superintendent Leone gave the directive that the schools will be closed until at least March 30th, we began an intensive effort to disinfect all of our school buildings and the central office. This task was completed by March 20th at all locations. The 16 sites open for the grab-and-go food and Chromebook distribution have been continuously addressed since that time. District secured a 3M Clean Trace Hygiene Monitoring Management System. This system allows us to test surfaces to determine if the disinfectant process is working and how well our approach is working. The instruments uses swabs and a meter called the reflective light unit meter, which is an industry standard utilized in hospitals to gauge levels of cleanliness. We're utilizing that equipment. This ensures our staff is meeting the standard of cleanliness and sanitation that we expect and that the CDC recommends. As the COVID-19 pandemic escalated, the district began issuing N95 respiratory protection to essential staff, as well as more aggressive disinfectants and techniques. We have purchased and acquired 4 Odorex hydroxyl air processors. These are EPA certified units that kill 99.9% of viruses and pathogens, including volatile organic compounds in the air and on hard surfaces and also on fabrics. Fabrics are especially important to disinfect because liquids don't tend to do that. This machine actually does that. We're using these units at strategic locations in addition to the disinfectant wiping down of surfaces and the electrostatic spray disinfection machines. We have ordered and did have delivered today 20 additional spray misting units that have arrived. We're training the staff on them. These units will be utilized to accelerate disinfection on high contact surfaces. It'll be done much more quickly. These units will be deployed by a specially trained staff, and they'll be used now. And when the buildings reopen, they can be used for rapid disinfection every evening. These are especially important for desktops, doorknobs, and areas that we can quickly go through a building and disinfect. We're also looking at a product called Silver Defender. This is a plastic film impregnated with silver antimicrobial mechanisms, which can be applied to these high surface contact areas. This silver antimicrobial surface is active for 90 days. We're exploring that. We're working with the manufacturer to see if we can actually get that into place. Facilities remains committed to safeguarding our students and staff during this extraordinary and evolving pandemic. We'll continue to monitor the CDC, Department of Health, and Department of Education guidelines and updates. I want to thank the superintendent. Under his leadership, we were prepared with an inventory of personal protective equipment, chemical disinfectants. We had training for the staff and some of the most advanced equipment available to handle this crisis. All of our stakeholders can rest assured that when the time comes and the direction takes place that we should open our schools, our students and staff will return to a healthy cleaning environment. I also want to mention that I want to thank my directors, my supervisors, my trade staff, all of the custodians, the custodial workers, the clerical staff, and the operations committee for their support throughout this process. It's been very helpful, and everyone understands the gravity of the situation, and they're working as a cohesive team. And that's my report for this evening. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon and greetings, Superintendent Leon, Madam President Garcia, board members, executive staff, and community. To date, we have provided a total of 44,844 meals, breakfast and lunch, to students throughout the city of Newark at 16 feeding hubs in accordance with Bill A 3840. On March 16th, the New Jersey State Legislature introduced this bill on March 16th and adopted it on March 20th, requiring school districts to continue the food service program to students who receive free and reduced price lunch. As a result, and in accordance with all executive orders, here are the 16 sites where breakfast and lunch is available. In the East Ward, they are East Side, South Street, and Hawkins. In the West Ward, Speedway, 13th Avenue, Mount Vernon. In the Central Ward, Central High School, Whitman, Dr. E. Alma Flagg. In the South Ward, Weeklake High School, George Washington Carver, Belmont Runyon. And in the North Ward, First Avenue, Park Elementary, McKinley, Rafael Hernandez. While food is being served at these 16 sites, these locations are not limited to the students who attend these schools. Regardless of the school you attend or live or stay in, they can visit these locations. Our feeding hours are 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. We are providing a cold bagged breakfast and lunch. Students or parents can pick up both meals at the same time. The reason why the hours are not earlier in the morning is because the food is being prepared at certain sites, and we need time to travel and to have the food arrive and served at the same time. The staff is practicing and following all safety procedures in accordance with the CDC guidelines, and remind everyone to continue to do the same. The food service staff will continue to serve breakfast and lunch meals to our children. Any changes will be highlighted on the district website. Thank you.
Madam President, that brings an end to the superintendent's report. And I just wanted to highlight for everyone, whatever we have in place will always be in place. Updates will occur on the district's website for everyone to be aware of. And I will only communicate out to the district staff and our families if in fact something changes that impacts them. And I thank the board for not only your belief, but you experiencing the reality that the team that this district has, while everyone's trying to be second to none, we're definitely working hard at being second.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Leon. I would just like to remind our Newark residents, our parents, that if you have any general questions regarding COVID-19, you can call 211 or you can call 24/7 1-800-962-1253, or you can text NJ COVID to 898-211, or you can go to the state of New Jersey's website, which is covid19.nj.gov. Everyone, please, in order to flatten this curve, we must stay home and adhere to the rules. I would like to now bring it over to my Vice Chair, Dawn Haynes, who I think joined us for the call, to see if she has a statement for our community. Vice Chair Haynes.
I've been unmuted. Can you hear me?
Welcome.
Hey, I was on from the beginning. Unfortunately, I was on an attendee link, so I want to give everybody encouraging words. All of my board colleagues have done an amazing job of explaining and expressing the things that they're working towards helping. As everyone know, if you don't know, we are in this together. Please encourage each other. Please stay prayerful for one another and continue to work to reach out to each other to help strengthen what's going on with you meet the requirements for a gift card from ShopRite via Mayor Baraka's office. And I just want everyone to know that, you know, we're in this together. Like right now, we have over 15 students inside of Weekway High School field. Get your kids and bring them in the house. We need everyone to stay in the house, according to all the things that we're hearing from our governor on down to our mayor, from our superintendent, and stay prayerful. And let's get through this together. Newark strong, Newark forward. Godspeed.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Haynes. Board members, I just got a call from several parents, and if we can take a moment of silence, we lost one of our students and it was not to COVID-19. So if we can just take a brief moment of silence in honor to our student who we lost. Thank you, everyone. And now I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Liss for public participation.
Oh, Board Chair, this is Board Member Norton. Can I ask Superintendent a question if you don't mind?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Superintendent Leon, thank you so much for the updates and allowing your executive staff to give those updates for the board and for the community. In regards to the Chromebooks, I know the district has been doing an amazing job with getting technology out to our students. And so I just wanted to know where we were with that. I know the district conducted a survey prior to schools being closed. And so where are our schools with getting those Chromebooks out to our students, as the district will be soon moving towards
United Way of Essex County website, United Way of Essex County website.
Everyone could go on mute.
United Way of
Not speaking, if everyone could go on mute. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and then the different things, because I know I've been seeing a lot of pictures of our several of our employees making home visits to deliver these Chromebooks. And so I definitely want to applaud those employees for doing that amazing work. And so if you could just give us an update of where we are with our Chromebooks giving to our students.
So we are, depending on the school, so it varies by location. Each school is strategically addressing their needs. Some are recalibrating because the need that we thought existed didn't exist, and in other instances, people who have been sharing with us that they actually now have a need when they didn't before. All of that, so the number is quite fluid. Particular schools over this weekend, one school in particular distributed over 200 Chromebooks at the school, and they gave the school appointment. So these 4 people at this time, the next group at another time, so that they were still in compliance with a particular guideline. Some schools were actually driving to students' houses, different staff members, administrators, staff members, some teachers, some people who are instructional staff, support staff. And what they did is they kind of did a divide to conquer strategy. And so that has been actually occurring for a couple of weeks, a week now, but it intensified over the weekend, because as we are seeing that this may be a little bit longer than what anyone would want, you definitely want to make sure that everyone has a Chromebook, and then the free online access component to it as well. So what I can't share is that the number is getting smaller, and then I was looking forward to this board meeting to impress upon families who actually end the question, so that families, it would be impressed upon them to reach out to their principal or their teacher, because all of this is being monitored by the school. And ultimately, any student that needs the type of assistance that we're talking about, we're going to find a way to get it to them. You know, one of the board members had shared that in one school district, I don't know if it was in South Jersey or somewhere across the country, where school buses were actually being deployed to bring, whether it was addressing hotspots or just the technology, closer to the student. So whatever our strategy is right now, I would say that it is everything under the sun that we are in fact doing. Just in one instance that I can reference, I know that there was some staff members who were saying they were having difficulty getting a response from either a parent or a parent having difficulty getting a response. And you know how everything works. You know, we don't need a pandemic to impress upon people the importance of being safe, following the guidelines as we have them. But there is no obstacle that will ever impede us from getting to everyone in the school district. And then we will assess when we get closer to April 6th, what are other things that we need to do to make sure that every student actually has what they will need to continue their education while we are doing this learning at home. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Leon.
Board President. Board President. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, great. Thank you. We're still continuing the questions. So first, I'd just like to thank Superintendent. Excuse me?
Murray Thomas, is it regarding the superintendent report?
Yes, that's why I said board president. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Got it. Thank you. And thank you, Superintendent Leon, for your report and the executive team for the presentations. I just want to reemphasize something that the superintendent shared for everyone who is listening in the community about advocacy. We all know that it's important to advocate for our young people and our students, but especially at this time while everything is remote and virtual. If you are a parent or if you're connected to a student who isn't getting what they need, please encourage them, like the superintendent said, to follow up, to reach out to their teachers, reach out to their principals to get what they need. And if there are challenges in terms of getting that responsiveness, reach out to the district so that you can get that support. We don't want anyone to feel like they're alone. And so just re-emphasizing that. But my first question is just in regards to the lunch programs. As Dr. McGill shared, we've given out literally tens and thousands of meals to our families over this past week alone. And so my question is just in terms of safety and security, what are some of the precautionary measures we've been taking to make sure that both our students who come to receive their meals are safe, but then also the staff themselves, making sure that they're safe. That's my first question. And I have two more, but if we could tackle that one first, and then I'll ask the following ones.
No, it's okay. Let's hear all three.
All three, yeah, can we do all three at once, please, so the superintendent can address them back to back and we can proceed?
Perfect. Thank you, Superintendent. My second question is more just for more context. So Superintendent, we know how hard our staff, our teachers, our principals have been working to make sure that young people have what they need, both in addition to their learning at home plans. And so could you just talk a little bit about what the expectation is specifically from the district standpoint in terms of making sure students who have supplemental academic learning needs, maybe that's tutoring, maybe that's needing a little extra work. What have been the district standards and expectations that are currently in place? And what does that look like in real time for our students who have the learning at home plans or have some of these resources, but may need a little bit more? What is the clear kind of expectation, and what has that follow through been looking like? And then thirdly, we could talk a little bit about our initiatives to make sure some of our most vulnerable students, which are our students who have individualized educational learning plans or IEPs, what has been some of the work of the Office of Special Education to make sure they are still being provided a quality education. Of course, we know this work is happening, but I think this is a really good opportunity to really shed light on how we as a district have been being proactive in those areas.
I appreciate the questions that have been asked. With regards to the safety of kids and staff, it's extremely important that everyone just remember that everyone is required to follow the CDC guidelines. And part of what our job is as staff in the schools, especially at the 16 sites, but in any of our schools, is to practice social distancing. It's extremely important that we reference the CDC guidelines, because as you can see, over the last couple of weeks or so, the directions have actually changed. So you're not gonna see on the district's website, this is what the CDC guideline is today, because anything up to date would have been different probably yesterday and probably would change tomorrow. So with regards to protective gear, things of that nature, extremely important that we're following washing your hands, making sure that you're covering your nose, not with your hands, but with tissues, using the inner portion of your elbow. All things that we know. If you're not feeling well, seek the assistance of your medical provider, seek their guidance so that ultimately we know that that you're okay. This is a very, very kind of a time where people are getting nervous. Just because you have a fever doesn't mean you have COVID-19. Just because you have a cough doesn't mean that you have COVID-19. So it's really, really important in a time where it appears as though you're not in control of what's occurring, for you to seek a little bit of self-control, breathe a little bit, and understand that we will always be okay, but we need to be mindful of what the symptoms are, so that we know that there are asymptomatic people that can actually pass it on. That's why the mayor has implored us to make sure that we're staying at our respective houses. And I just want to take this opportunity that our young people at a certain point in time were under the belief that this wasn't going to impact them. That may be true. It'll just impact your grandmother. As it relates to the learning at home plans, we have high expectations. That didn't change. We have high demands on our teachers. That did not change. What do I expect about the learning at home plans? I expect for them to get done. As it relates to our most vulnerable students, well, right now, technically, all of our students are the most vulnerable students. But as it relates specifically to any child that has an IEP, one of the things that we're focusing on is how to continue OP, PT services, things of that nature. My child study team members are working really, really hard at making sure that we are addressing what are the academic needs of our students, regardless of the type of student, making sure that probably are receiving more calls at home than they've ever received before, whether it's in conversations with parents or with students. When they're not talking to either, then they're definitely in consultation with the teaching staff at the school to make sure that everything that we can do in the best interest of a child with an IEP is being addressed. What is our plan moving forward? Well, obviously, as this develops and we get closer to returning back to normal, meaning everyone's back at school, because the normal of today is not what I'm talking about. We will, in fact, design particular plans to get the students from wherever they are and meet their needs to move them aggressively forward. It's extremely important for everyone to understand, and I know that this has been shared throughout my executive staff and the principals at the schools, this is by far a vacation. And we all need to make sure that whatever it is that our students need as it relates to educationally, that we will be there to provide it for them.
Thank you, Superintendent Leon. Ms. Liss, thank you, Board Member Mary Thomas, Superintendent Leon. Ms. Liss, if we can proceed to public participation, please.
Madam President, before we
Sorry, I couldn't hear you guys. Board Member Johnson and then Board Member Bledsoe.
So I just wanted to kind of reiterate, I had reached out to a couple of people last week, well, this week rather. I just wanted to emphasize that for all our seniors for the class of 2020, I know that, you know, some things have halted for you guys, but I just wanted you guys to be mindful that, like, if you still need help with your FAFSA, if you still need help with college applications, a lot of schools are doing things online. So I want you to I want you to know that you can reach out to your guidance counselors or reach out to district staff with anything that you might need to do to push forward, because me having a senior that's graduated in the class of 2020, you know, his stuff wasn't finished to the full capability that he needed to get done. But, you know, with the guidance of his guidance counselor at his school, you know, they've been helping him walk through the extra steps that he needs to get done. So I just want all our seniors to know that you still have stuff that you need to get done. So I just wanted to re-emphasize that too as well.
Madam President, after Board Bledsoe, I did have one last question. Thank you.
My question is not.
Board Member Bledsoe. After that, we're gonna move on. Board Member Bledsoe, are you there?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Just really quickly, I know we're moving into public participation, but I just would like to know if there's anyone from the district staff that's noting down the comments that are being made by members of the public in the comment section. If someone can jot down those questions for the superintendent, just so that he's able to follow up with a response. So thank you.
Board President, an important question that I just need to make sure this is conveyed, especially in light of the issues.
Board Member Mary Thomas.
Thank you, Board President. Thank you, Superintendent, for that really detailed answer. You made me think of something, and Board Member Hill's comments made me think of this as well. In terms of our seniors, we've been doing a lot of work, Superintendent, on making sure that we are trying to be proactive about making sure students are on track, right? And so tracking their credits, having the student tracker, what kind of resources or programs can we have in place that are virtual for our students, our seniors who may be off track or credit deficient? I know that there are a lot of online software that credit deficient students have been using in terms of credit recovery. Can we just talk? And if we don't have that answer now, that's okay. But I would love to hear a follow-up at some point, just in terms of our interventions for our students who are at risk of not graduating on time, and for whom this disconnect in terms of being a person in school actually puts them more at risk.
Nothing that we were doing before has stopped. So the monitoring of all of the students becomes extremely important. I just need the students to do what we're asking them to do, so that in fact, those who can graduate on time actually graduate on time. So we're monitoring everything. How many students, where are they with the credits? Where are they with alternative assessments, things of that nature? So what I wanted to impress upon everyone when I started in the superintendent's report is that while it's all appearing to be not in one's control, we're staying true to certain things that are in place because we know that they work. And if we need to change it, then we'll do that. But right now, we're doing that.
Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you, Board President.
Thank you. Superintendent Leon, I have one question, actually. It was regarding hotspots. Do all of our students have hotspots through this process, or do we have some that are in need?
Well, Madam President, we do need to get to public participation, and the public hearing was supposed to start at 5. I share that because one of the things about having online access is sometimes people text you all on the dais, and we're obviously not reading those text messages on the dais. So if people are texting you answers, all they need to do is put it in the chat room, and we'll make sure that we get back to everyone. As it relates to that, it depends on the parts of the city. We're providing online access free for everyone who needs it.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just wanted to say if our students did not have it, if there would be an in-kind philanthropist who would donate hotspots for our students throughout this crisis, because it's not going away anytime soon. It'll be happening for the next several months. And Ms. Liz, if we can move on now to public participation, thank you. Board members, if you have any other questions, please email them.
Public participation at board meetings is intended to allow individual members of the public to address the board on issues of public concern, and not intended as a forum for extended conversation or two-way dialogue with members of the board or district officials. It shall be the responsibility of the board president to maintain order and efficient process during public participation at board meetings. The board president, superintendent, or designate may respond to questions either at the end of the session or at a later time. Public participation during a regular public meeting is limited to 90 minutes. All speakers will be allotted no more than 3 minutes for comment unless an exception applies. Time limits will be adhered to. There will be no sharing or granting of speaking time to others. For this meeting, each pre-submitted comment will be read by the Executive Director of Board Relations. Attempts to disrupt the meeting or inciting others to do so will not be tolerated. Examples of unacceptable behavior include engaging in personal attacks, racial slurs, calling out, and yelling. Attempts to hijack or filibuster the proceedings, repeated interrupting or badgering the board president or district officials, repetitive or truculent speech, or other disregard for the rules of decorum will not be tolerated. If necessary, the board meeting will be adjourned.
Thank you very much, Ms. Liz. And we have the first speaker here on the list is Michaela Freeman Williams. Ms. Deering, do we have a statement or comment from the speaker?
Mistreatment of lobby security staff at 765 Broad Street.
Thank you very much, Ms. Deering. And the next speaker we have is Kayla Johnson.
On March 4th, 2020, which was a Wednesday, my friend and I went down at 12 p.m. to get her working paper signed at 765 Broad Street, Newark, New Jersey. For her orientation, which was the same day, we were turned away because they believed we were skipping school. When in reality, we took the practice ACT, were let out around 11:30, and we went back in so her mother could speak to someone. And when we went into the elevator, the guard had a very aggressive tone. And so we finally got upstairs and we asked the second floor guard to go in. She got up from her desk to tell the man signing papers, and she came out and told us that he would not see anyone until after 3:30. But my friend's orientation was 3:45. The guard was already on the top floor, called for two other guards to come up. The male guard was very aggressive and slapping the buttons on the elevator saying, "You can leave the building yourself. You're going to leave in handcuffs," which was uncalled for because we weren't being rowdy. My friend's mother was on the FaceTime during the whole thing because she wanted to speak to someone, but the guy signing the papers would not come out at all. This experience altogether was very uncomfortable and uncalled for. This treatment of two young girls should not be allowed when trying to get something important done. We also do not attend public schools. We attend KIPP, which on a regular day gets out at 4:19. So by the time we get downtown to get papers signed, it's hard because the Board of Education is already closed. I just feel as if something needs to change.
Thank you very much, Ms. Deering. Next speaker we have is Malcolm White Walker.
What I want to say is at my school, I feel as though teachers, vice principals, and the principal need training. The way some teachers deal with altercations is not the right way. They deal with it by shaming students, disrespecting them, and calling their parents, and making the parents not believe what their child says when the teacher says stuff that is not true. The teachers also don't try to help students when it's time for them to help. For example, let's say my resource teacher is not there in the classroom or out for the day. My general ed teacher should be able to help me in the classroom and give me the resources that I need when I should have them. This is for all students. Thank you for your presence. Smile, it makes a difference.
Thank you, Ms. Deering. Next speaker we have here is Diane Galloso.
Mental health issues, bus card situation, unacceptable.
Next speaker, Lucius Jones.
Public participation issues.
Next speaker, Denise Cole.
I believe Ms. Cole is in the room.
Rob, can we connect speaker Cole, please?
She's unmuted now. Hello? Can you hear me? I can't. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Rob, can you start a timer for Ms. Cole, please? 3 minutes.
We can hear you.
Josephine.
We can hear you, Ms. Cole.
Okay, I'm trying to explain to you. I submitted my statement to Nancy. Nancy is supposed to read it. I even got a call to ask me. Nancy should read my statement.
Okay, we can do that, Ms. Cole. We can do that. We can.
Yeah.
You want us to read it?
Yes.
I have it.
We'll do that, Ms. Cole.
Really working.
We, the community, did not give up our rights to the Clarity 2020 plan, the broader, bolder approach. Superintendent Leon must clarify his statement at the last regular meeting of the board. He mentioned the broader, bolder approach that was mentioned. In Clarity 2020, one-year plan, what does that mean in the structuring of our school system we are adopting? A charter model or using the pedagogy or the curriculum of this model. We have policies that says we have the right to choose and participate in becoming charters, partly or wholly changing the traditional public schools over to a new system. Superintendent, we will not accept the illusion of inclusion and a violation of our rights. Citations, New Jersey Statute 18A.36A-4, New Jersey Statute 18A 36A 4.1. File Code 1100, Communicating with the Public. File Code 6142.2, English as a Second Language Bilingual Programs. File Code 1220, Ad Hoc Advisory Committees. Regulation Code 1312R, Community Complaints and Inquiries. File Code 1312, Community Complaints and Inquiries. File Code 5020, Parents, Guardians. File Code 5124, Reporting to Parents, Guardians. To end, I would like to say to the board, superintendent, and community, the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. Alice Walker.
Thank you, Nancy. Next speaker, Kathleen Witcher.
Dear Superintendent Leon and Newark Public School board members, thank you for the opportunity to submit my presentation. I speak to regards of providing quality education for all our youth. Our school children are precious and are placed at this time in a pandemic that strains the best of our intellects to handle. Continuity of our education programs and plans are critically challenged by school closures and the literal shutdowns of almost everything we know: commerce and industry, schools and colleges, recreational facilities, cultural activities, etc. Ergo, my specific presentation and excitement about the progress and viability of the STEM program at Malcolm X Shabazz High School, offered by Stryker in conjunction with NJIT, Bloomfield College, and others, is waylaid by concerns for continued academic programs. While I too have served on the local school board, I acknowledge and recognize that there was never a challenge like this one. It is clear that technology is to be relied on, so I appeal to you to continue to do your best. It is by way of technology that 46,000 school children will be able to learn and be able to accomplish. I wish to continue to speak about the accomplishments of Malcolm X Shabazz School and the steadfast leadership of Principal Gifted as some relief from Coronas and its aftermath occur. I wish to share some of the highlights that make us all proud. Thank you for your diligence at this critical time and beyond.
Next speaker, Aaron Martin.
Hi, I pray that you all, our educators, all our educational stakeholders, and your families are well and staying safe. Here are my questions and comments. Although scheduling may be modified, how many schools in Newark are piloting the new LGBTQ curriculum? Please provide a list of schools and attach a copy of the curriculum. What type of community engagement plan was implemented to inform parents, guardians, the school community, and all stakeholders about this curriculum and the information meetings? Please provide a copy of that plan. Why is NJ Garden State Equality running these meetings without any board members or central office personnel present to answer parents' stakeholder questions? After being contacted by a few parents, I attended the second meeting at Arts High School. The turnout was poor, and those facilitating was very short on answers that parents asked. If a parent determines that any part of this new curriculum is suggestive, subjective, inappropriate, or against their religious or fundamental beliefs, are they allowed to opt out their children? I personally have family members that are a part of the LGBT community, and I love them all. And I certainly don't have a problem with any person or group wanting to recognize their contributions for this country. Although I wish that NPS, as well as other school districts in New Jersey, truly taught African American history, as the Amistad Commission mandates, most parents like my wife and I teach our children tolerance, respect, fairness, decency, compassion, kindness, and love for all humans, regardless of race, religion, ethnicity, sexual preference, orientation, gender, etc. As usual, I can be reached by my personal cell phone for any questions or comments or concerns. I look forward to the information I requested and answers to my questions. Praying for all first responders, frontline healthcare workers, and every essential employee.
Next speaker, Julissa Vasquez.
Newark Public Schools.
Next speaker, Douglas Freeman.
The online virtual resources used as the parent platform must have a directory by school, which is urgently developed to build out workable solutions for parents, students, after-school programs, summer programs to be on the same platform as the teachers and the NPS moving forward. Computers must be placed in these enrichment programs and extracurricular activities, working simultaneously together to accomplish the goals of preparing children for success within the city of Newark. The community have already begun to have put together several additional social platforms to help outreach. What happened to the school partnerships of community outreach professionals who are receiving millions of dollars to assist the community? They have not yet shown their faces in our time of trouble and need. Do they have offices in Newark, or have they used Newark students for their benefits? Concerns. The time restraints on assignments should not provide additional stress on parents and students, but should be monitored so as not to create stressful mental health issue. The Zoom meetings do not offer the option to play back if the time is missed. Households with multiple children need additional devices for broadband services and access. Teachers and staff should be using the same platform and on one accord as to which apps packets are being used by the students. More explanation needs to be in video format.
Next speaker, Maggie Freeman.
I, Maggie Freeman, GOP South Ward 45 District Leader, oppose the statement submission process as it relates to public participation portion of the Newark Public Schools 3/26/2020 board meeting. There are several methods that could have been used, such as pre-recorded messages, designated phone lines to call in, etc., to respect and not suppress the voices of the community. My original reason for signing up to speak this month related to the mistreatment by Newark Public Schools. Security staff, students, families looking to do any form of business with the Board of Education. Families looking for services offered by the district should not have to live in fear and be threatened with detainment by the frontline staff in order to speak with internal departments. We are demanding that the board investigate and further train the entire staff in quality care and quality client care service, especially the security guards. As for the COVID-19 crisis, we as a community are aware of the significant changes that are occurring to adjust the current pandemic. However, we are seeing that our community lacks the true community school support system that we have unified our local resources. The Community School Initiative was not properly developed, and the local community and the results have reared its ugly head. Each school needs to be a resource hub of information and resources that is essentially identified in times of crisis. The district is the closest presence of our city's resources, and yet it is one of the most challenging to reach, especially with the horribly functioning phone system. We are lacking this commitment from the district, and we need more visible role going forward that the active and local people, businesses, and/or organizations can depend on when it counts the most. This can begin by hiring local educators, support staff, contracting services from local businesses with more active nonprofits, and more that will be available when times are great and especially when they are difficult. We need you to reevaluate your commitment and communication with the local community through action. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Next speaker, Kevin Knapp. We have, right?
Water and school safety.
Next speaker, Catherine Freeman.
Unprofessional police officer at 765 Broad Street location.
Next speaker, Johnny Latner.
To be announced.
Next speaker, Portia Lowery.
Special education prize.
Next speaker, Thomas Eviang.
Education.
Next speaker, Dorothy Lovelace.
Cafeteria.
Next speaker, Kim Dandridge.
Cafeteria.
Next speaker, Marquita Hankerson.
Cafeteria.
Next speaker, Wilhelmina Holder.
Coronavirus impact and concerns.
Next speaker, Lyndon Brown.
Impact of the coronavirus pandemic on Newark Board of Education students.
And that concludes our speakers list. Thank you so much, Nancy, for reading all those statements. If we can have a motion to bring the public meeting to an end, please.
Motion.
Motion by Board Member Villa.
Second.
Second.
Sounded like that was a second by.
Yes.
We have a motion by Mr. Padilla and a second by Ms. Norton. I think that's what I heard. We'll take a roll call. Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe?
What is this vote, the minutes?
To end the meeting. And the public participation, Board Member Bledsoe.
Before we take vote, excuse me,
Yes.
Board Secretary, are there items for voting this evening?
Yes. Yes, but that comes after the public participation.
Public participation. I'm sorry.
We're closing the public participation, then we'll move on to our voting items on the agenda.
The language of the motion is to bring the public meeting to an end.
Bring the
Continue,
public
Ms.
meeting
Liz.
or to bring the public comment section to end.
Well, the language of the motion that was read by the president is to bring the public meeting to an end. That is to move on so we can get to the public hearing.
And if you can proceed, Ms. Liz.
So we're not voting on the items on the agenda? That's on the
We're
public.
doing that afterwards, Board Member Bledsoe. That's the next item on your agenda, if you open your agenda.
I have it open, so you're closing public participation. That's the motion.
Correct.
Yes, my vote is a yes.
That's not what's said. I think Board Member, Madam General Counsel, I think you accidentally said closing the public meeting. So I understand the confusion there. Thank you for that clarification. That's not what was initially said.
So what was stated was, can I please have a motion to bring the public meeting to an end? And Ms. Liz proceeded by doing the roll call vote, please.
It's not.
I think there's confusion between public meeting and public participation. So are we doing the ending the public meeting? Is this a motion to end the public meeting, or is this a motion to end public participation?
I'm sorry, you guys couldn't hear me. It froze me up for a minute. Public participation.
Okay. Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Gomez?
Yes.
Ms. Haynes?
Yes.
Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Murray Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Norton?
Yes.
Mr. Padilla?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Liz. If we can move on to item, if I'm correct, 7.0, finance and operation votes.
Board President, I just have a comment before we move to the next section.
We need to move on to the public.
We're not.
Budget. That's why I thought we were moving on quickly.
So we're not
quick comment
of minutes. Is that's before that was on the agenda originally?
Wait, we'll let one person at a time. Let's start with Board Member Murray Thomas. It's not regarding the public participation, correct?
It's not. Thank you.
Okay, Board Member Bledsoe?
Wait, no, it is. It is. Wait, I thought you were confused.
No, we're not answering any of the questions, Board Member Murray.
I'm not answering any questions. I know the process. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just responding to procedurally. I need to make a recommendation just based off what just took place.
Okay.
Thank you. So it just seems that when I was reading through some of the list of public comments, it appears that there isn't total clarity from the community about the new process. So can we just make sure that moving forward, we make it very clear and that community members are very clear about the process for signing up? Because there are some folks who put their topic as in the system, but didn't actually put their statement, which suggests that not everyone knows that with this new process, with everything being virtual, we're requesting a written statement. And so can we just make that very clear? Can we also make clear, it does seem like there were certain folks who had access to call in while others didn't. And so that process just isn't clear to me. And so if it's not clear to me as a board member, I imagine it's not clear for everyone as a community. And so just from a board relations perspective, can we really fine tune the communication is to folks on A, how do you sign up to speak? B, what that will look like in this virtual age. Just need that to be clear. Thank you.
Okay, so Board Member Murray Thomas, we made it clear on the website, and I made it clear on my board member page that public participation will be available for both meetings, the public, our board meeting, and the budget hearing. To participate in the public participation, please register online in advance as usual. You should submit your name, address, email, and state your question or comment to the Office of Board Relations via NPS Board Relations at nps.k12.nj.us, and that submissions will be accepted until Tuesday, March 24th at 5 p.m. and that our Board Relations Director, Ms. Deering, would be reading out your statement or comment on the record. So we made it very clear, and Ms. Deering, for the past 2 days, has reached out to our speakers with the email and the telephone numbers that they provide on their forms to let them know about our new procedure due to the crisis that we're going through. And we will continue to notify the public with that same procedure for our next meeting. Board Member Bledsoe?
With that being said, President, it's clear that even that still wasn't sufficient. And so not to anyone's discredit or issue, but the reality is that this is just a new age. It's a new time. It's a new issues we're dealing with. So we have to over communicate. So no one's suggesting that we didn't communicate at all, but clearly that wasn't enough, right? Because we had over 10 different people who signed up who didn't actually have a statement, just had 3 words for their topic. So we need to make sure that we are being extra clear and extra explicit about how folks can actually use their power to communicate their needs, their issues, their concerns in the age of digital board meetings.
Yes, we will continue. Board, is that Superintendent Leon? Superintendent Leon?
I think that Board Member Murray Thomas, raises a really good point. I want everyone to understand that the Thursday before the public meeting, that means last week, that's the regular time that you sign up. And when you sign up, you actually give us an idea of what you want to talk about. Whatever it is, the topic. Education matters, a particular problem in a school, any issue. You're required currently today, not because of our realities today, you wind up putting that into the system. Since we knew that we would be doing it virtually, we reached out or made attempts to reach out to all of the people that had already signed up, because you can't sign up after the deadline. So anybody who wanted to sign up after the deadline, you can't. It was the deadline. What we did do was reach out to the people who signed up and ask them, hey, would you want us to read, would you submit to us your written statement? Because we really were nervous about and excited about how this virtual meeting was going to go. Yesterday, we realized, and you saw it today, that we could actually have the speakers speak without us having to have them write their statement. That's what occurred today. So that seemed to have worked well, and we know that moving forward, that's how we will do. The people will sign up normally, and then they will get information on the web on how to log on to be on the virtual conversation. And based on what we saw, we will allow them to do their own presentations, like what we experienced today. I think that your whole point is the one that I want to highlight, which is not only have we done it, we need to do it and be very, very intentional about it, because it's going to be different depending on how long we have to do this, and making sure that we've communicated with anyone who signed up. Even to today, we should have been like, hi, are you aware, so that we could have all of their statements on the record. So what we decided to do, so that you're aware, maybe this wasn't communicated to all of you, and it's just a reality of the fluidity of the day, not today, but of just the days that we're in, what we did do was read whatever the person who signed up for wanted to talk about. So at least we were aware of that. Instead of saying they didn't show up, they did make they wrote notes like they normally do, and we wanted to just advise you that they had actually did have topics that they wanted to talk about, regardless of what the reason. Some people may have a written statement, written a statement. Maybe they thought they were going to be able to get on or not. But that's the reality of where we are today. And then all of the other viewers who are listening in, they're either watching or listening, they obviously don't have the opportunity to speak. And that's generally what happens at the public hearing. The only people who get to speak are the ones who sign up.
Thank you for that, Superintendent.
Thank you, Superintendent.
Raising the point, we have a lot of staff, since everyone wants to talk, I figure I'm going to talk. We have staff who really needed to hear that, because in this reality, we need to actually over communicate to everyone, actually, so everyone kind of knows it's different. And unfortunately, maybe over communicating is also something that's different for us. So we're going to work at being better, and we're going to take notes along the way.
Thank you, Board Member Mary Thomas and Superintendent Leon. Ms. Liss, you may proceed.
We're going to move on the action items. First, we need a
Before we
motion
move forward, I did
of
have
finance items. That is item 7.1 to 7.32.
Madam President.
We have a motion.
Madam President.
Board Member, I think it's Board Member Bledsoe.
Yes, before we move forward on the agenda, I think that it's important to notice that the approval of the minutes was removed from the agenda, and that was not the case previously.
Actually, that's a great point. Even though presentations, there are minutes that have occurred. Remember, the meetings were occurring prior to the realities of what we've lived.
So Ms. Liz, can we have approval of the minutes? And during my president's report, I stated out to the public that the minutes have been moved on to our website, where now our community can access our committee minutes via NPS website.
Or we can add an item.
Yes.
We do that before the finance items, and that will
be
and technically, Madam President, prior to posting anything to the website, it needs to be approved officially by the Board of Education.
It went before the governance committee. It was approved, and this is something that we had a discussion on our special board meeting, and we agreed during that meeting.
For committee members is not a quorum of the board.
No, not committee. During the special board meeting, which took place last month. You were not in attendance at that meeting.
We approved the previous minutes at a special meeting.
No, not the previous minutes, the meeting minutes going online.
No, I'm fine with that. The process of it going online. I'm talking about formally approving previous month's meeting minutes, which is required board action.
Right. No, that's what Ms. Liss is going to add to the agenda now. She's going to add it at 7.0 and then add finance items at 7.1.
Okay. Since this is March, we're approving minutes of the February board meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes? Mr. Bledsoe, do we have a second? Who was the second?
Anderson.
Anderson. Do a roll call. Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe? Ms. Garcia? Ms. Gomez?
Yes.
Ms. Haynes?
Yes.
Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Mary Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Norton?
Yes.
Mr. Padilla? Motion carries. Next, we need a motion to approve finance items. That is items 7.1 through 7.32. Ms. Norton moved.
Second.
Second, Ms. Gomez.
Forgot about me.
Was it Ms. Hill? I'm sorry. Tell me the motion and the second again.
Motion by Ms. Norton,
Their
second.
names. Before the motion, can the board members just state their name just so that Ms. List can make a note of it? And so, for example, Reginald Bledsoe, I motion. Can we do that, please?
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Norton and a second by Ms. Hill. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe?
I'm gonna vote yes, but I have a discussion, a point that I would like to make.
Ms. Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Gomez?
Yes.
Ms. Haynes?
Yes.
Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Murray Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Norton?
Yes.
Mr. Padilla? Motion. We need a motion to approve the items under the heading of General Counsel. That is 8.1 through 8.3.
Madam President, I'm sorry.
Ms. List,
I hate to do this.
Board Member Bledsoe.
I hate to do this, but I know that
Board Member Bledsoe.
new, but normally parliamentary procedures allow us to do a motion, a second, discussion, questions, and then we move forward with the vote. So I did have a question about a particular item, which would have determined if I would have voted yes or no on the item.
That was calling, Board Member Bledsoe, I was calling your name for your discussion. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Off and on. You're off and on.
I'm sorry, I heard a vote and went on to the next member.
Board Member Bledsoe, your discussion regarding.
I just would like to know on the items of withdrawing funds from the fund balance. That's something that's very new to the district. Since I've been on this board, we've never done that before. We've never spent down excess fund balance. And for me to see that that's happening now, that's quite not disturbing, but it's something that's new. And that's territory that we've never charted before. And I'm just curious to know, despite all of the issues that are impacting districts around the state with the coronavirus, and the fact that local fair shares are being discussed about being suspended in the state, which has a huge impact on additional revenues that we received. Is it great? Is it just a great opportunity to be spending fund balance?
Board Member Bledsoe, well, before we proceed, before I turn it over to our ABA, Ms. Wilson, Board Member Bledsoe, can you give me the item number 7 point? Rob, can you click on the item number on the agenda and expand it, please, so we can all see what Board Member Bledsoe is?
7.11.
7.11, Rob? And if our ABA, Ms. Wilson, can jump in and respond to Board Member Bledsoe's question regarding the drawing of funds to the fund balance.
Good afternoon, Board Chair, Superintendent, members of the board, members of the community, and staff. Thank you, Board Chair. This resolution, Mr. Bledsoe, is for us to use our undesignated fund balance and to withdraw from our capital reserve to cover capital expenses specifically related to the renovation of Newark Vocational. As everybody is aware,
if everyone can mute their screen, please, so we can hear Ms. Wilson.
As everyone is aware, Newark Vocational was slated to open last September. We have had some delays because of environmental conditions discovered in the building during the construction phase and have exceeded the budget for that school. So we now have to look at a capital reserve that we've had in place for a while, and also some of our undesignated fund balance in order to offset the increased expenses and to have the school ready for students to physically move in and occupy the space and begin their programs by this September.
The only correction that I want to make is that the school was supposed to be open in September 2018, which was 2 years ago, not this past September.
Madam Chair,
Board Member Norton.
yeah, and then also just to specify, when we say open, the school is open with teachers and with principal and with their principal. It's just a matter of the building itself. And so I don't want the public to get the misunderstanding that the school isn't open, because the school is open. It's just the actual building itself.
Any other question, Board Member Bledsoe?
Extremely important point. Thank you for that.
No, thank you.
Any other question? Okay. Ms. Liz?
Next, we need a motion on the items under the heading General Counsel. That is items 8.1 to 8.3.
Motion.
Who made the motion?
Anderson. State your name, board members.
Anderson.
Norton, Agent Norton, seconded.
Motion by Ms. Anderson, second by Ms. Norton. Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Gomez? Ms. Haynes?
Yes.
Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Murray Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Norton?
Yes.
Mr. Padilla? Motion carries. Next, we need a motion to adopt the personnel items. That is items 9.1 through 9.11.
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Norton.
No, motion by Vice President Haynes.
Board Member Gomez, second.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Gomez?
Yes.
Ms. Haynes?
Yes.
Ms. Hill? Ms. Murray Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Norton?
Yes.
Mr. Padilla?
Yes.
Instruction, that is items 1 through 11.14. Do we have a motion?
Motion, Agent Norton.
Murray Thomas.
Dorian
too.
Motion by Ms. Norton, second by Ms. Murray Thomas.
And I'd like to add a comment after the vote.
Do you want the discussion before the vote?
I could do it after, just the following procedure either way. Thank you.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
So,
If everyone can mute their screens, please, during your roll call process.
Ms. Garcia? Ms. Gomez?
Yes.
Ms. Haynes?
Yes.
Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Murray Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Norton?
Yes.
Mr. Padilla?
Yes.
Motion carries. Ms. Thomas had a comment?
Thank you. I just would like to acknowledge the work of the Program and Instruction Committee everywhere from our Deputy Superintendent, our Superintendent, our high school assistant superintendents, and our Director of Teaching and Learning. We had an extremely productive meeting, and there was so much work that went into making sure that we approved the curriculum for our CTE, Career Technical Education courses, as well as our Amistad as well as our Amistad plan, and making sure we really implement this work, especially going into the new school year. So I know a lot was cut short, but there's a lot of great work that's been happening in the committee that, we're going to think creatively about how we can make sure that we actually get that information out to the community. But I just could not let the evening go without just acknowledging the incredibly hardworking dedication of the Program and Instruction Committee, the executive staff related to it, and then of course the community and the parents who push us and make us in our work even better. So I just want to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Mary Thomas. Ms. Liss?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second,
Anderson.
Ms. Norton? Who's the second?
Anderson?
Anderson was first. Norton was second.
Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe? Ms. Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Gomez?
Yes.
Ms. Haynes? Ms. Hill? Ms. Mary Thomas? Ms. Norton?
Yes.
Mr. Padilla?
Yes.
Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.
Yes, my vote is a yes too.
We want to make it clear to everyone that we're moving right into the public hearing. For those of you who are watching and you would like to continue with us, have ended one meeting, but we are now beginning the second meeting. Not pausing, there is no break. Questions that are asked by the public at the end of the presentation by the school business administrator are only to be questions about the budget. Thank you.
It probably should have came from
Ms.
you. Okay.
Board Member Bledsoe, I'm sorry. Board Member Bledsoe?
I just said that I think that statement probably should have came from you, Madam President, but
I was trying, but he took over the meeting. Superintendent, if I may, please. So, where am I here? Okay. Nancy, I'm not sure if you emailed the budget presentation to all the board members. If the board members can take a moment to pull up your budget presentations either on your phone or through another tab before we begin our budget presentation. And once we do, I would like to turn it over to our ABA. Wilson?
Madam President.
Wait, one at a time. Board Member Bledsoe and then Board Member Norton.
can you call the budget presentation meeting to order and then the roll call?
The job of the president, Mr. Bledsoe.
Just a friendly suggestion. Just a friendly suggestion.
Madam President, my purpose was not to do the chair or the president's job. Mine was to make sure that everyone who's viewing is aware that we're actually in order here. So when I'm finished, then you can start the hearing. So for everyone else, I want it to be clear. The board voted to end the public meeting. Now we're about ready to start the public hearing. And the president will obviously do that. I actually do know what my job is. Thank you for everyone.
No, I appreciate
President.
Board member, my goodness. Board member Norton, thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that the public would, where the public can access the presentation online.
It's going to be visible during the presentation.
Can you repeat that, Ms. Searing, and everyone mute yourselves, please?
Can we call the budget meeting to order first?
Right, 1 second. So good evening, everyone. Go ahead, Nancy.
Done. Seat President.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us in our 2020 budget presentation. The location, of course, it's virtual. As you can see, we've been virtual here since 4 p.m. this afternoon with our board meeting, and now we will be going into our budget hearing, and the time is 6:10 p.m. Ms. Liss?
In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6 et sec, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by publication in the Star Ledger and Luso Americano newspapers, and by posting on the website and in administrative offices of the Newark Public Schools. A copy of this notice has been sent to the offices of the City of Newark for posting. This is the public hearing on the annual school budget of the Newark Public Schools, March 26, 2020, It's 6:11.
Roll call, Ms. List?
Ms. Anderson?
Present.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Present.
Ms. Garcia?
Present.
Ms. Gomez?
Present.
Ms. Haynes?
Present.
Ms. Hill?
Present.
Ms. Murray Thomas?
Present.
Ms. Norton?
Present.
Mr. Padilla?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. List. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Deering. If Ms. Deering can state out to the public where the budget presentation is. And board members, if you can open your budget presentation.
President Garcia, it's going to be a part of the SBA's presentation, so everyone will be able to see it.
Oh, she's going to do the slide. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Deering. I would like to turn it over now to our SBA, Ms. Wilson.
Good evening, Board Chair, members of the community, members of the board, Superintendent Leon. Thank you for this opportunity to present the district's budget. Before I begin, I would like to say a very special thank you to our staff across the district who have been working during this crisis, and we are appreciative of what you have been doing. So this evening, we are presenting our fiscal year 2020-21 budget. The presentation will take a few minutes, and then there will be an opportunity for public comment and question. And we will take a vote at the end of the meeting, a resolution to vote on the budget and establishment of the district's travel budget. These are all required by statute. So let me begin this evening. Rob, you can change the slide, please. So as a district, we have been working very hard since Superintendent Leon came on, and we worked on something called NPS Clarity 2020. Many of you will remember that as our strategic plan for the first year of the superintendent's tenure. That was a one-year strategic plan, which we have been reporting out regularly on and have been providing information to the public. There have been many common public meetings. There have been discussion. We have made sure that we have identified with all sectors of our community and all of our stakeholders. The next phase of our strategic planning will go to the 2020-2030, which will be known as the next decade. It will be the first strategic plan in the nation, which will be a 10-year plan, once again encompassing all of our community stakeholders and ensuring that everyone has the ability to contribute. That plan will be released late June of this year, and we will enter into it for the new school year of 2020, which begins on July 1st, with the beginning of our fiscal year. This budget was prepared by members of my budget team, Elvis Matos, Jao Diaz, Carmen Rodriguez, Henry Boma, Patricia Seawack. And I hope I didn't forget anybody, Selinette Fontanez and Shirley Zachary. It has been a collaboration of our teams, and we could not have done it without them. So once again, a great appreciation to my finance staff, not just the budget team. Next slide. Rob? Okay. So this particular slide shows us our budget in an overview. We have increased school budgets as a result of our aggressive budget management and our state aid, which directly benefits schools and academic programs. I'm not going to go through each of the segments on the page, but I want to point out to you, look at the column that says fiscal year 2021 and look at the budget. You will see that our state aid increased over fiscal year 1920, which was the current year we're in, by $53.3 million. These numbers in the variance columns and all the columns are in millions. Our local tax levy will increase this year by 2.7 million. That is a 2% increase, the minimum that school districts can charge, and it will take our tax levy to 138.3 million. This is extremely important because when you vote on the candidates for the school election in May, it is important that you check the ballot question. Vote yes for the budget. You will see that 138.3 in the upper right-hand corner of the ballot. And there are other funds you see that we have. You also see that we have our budgeted fund balance, which in 1920 was 57.3. In the 2021 budget, we are using approximately $21 million. Charter payments. Our charters increased this year by 20.5 million. That is a year-over-year increase between 1920 and 2021. The rest of the numbers you can see for yourself. So NPS contribution to schools is the money that we move in that large yellow segment, is the money that we move to schools. We actually increased that this year by $9.2 million. So we made additional investments associated with contractual obligations, and we'll talk about it later, adoptions of textbooks, staffing, etc. This brings our total general fund budget to $1,035.6 $1,000, right? Thanks, Elvis. If you add our blended Title I money, which goes into the schools, that 14.9 million, the total budget for the district is $1,050,400,000. That is our total budget, ladies and gentlemen. Next slide, Rob. Okay, this is a slide you've become very familiar with. We have updated it each time we do the budget. So if you look at, you see the first column made up of yellow, green, and blue, you will see where does the money come from. It's our local tax levy and our state aid, which is now $865,700,000, okay? Those are our two major sources of revenue. How is it spent? We spend money on charter schools to the tune of $285.3 million. We spend out-of-district tuition for students attending programs at out-of-district private schools, our special needs population, $45.6 million. Our non-salary expenses, supplies, things of that nature, anything that is not salaries or benefits is $141.8 million. Benefits is $135.8 million. And salaries are $426.9 million of the budget. So if we look at from out of district, that bright dark blue bar, all the way through salaries, we see where our general fund budget goes to support the district, in district. Charters are children who are in other schools. How does that break down? In schools and student support, you see in the orange or terracotta column, $706.9 million of that money goes to schools in the form of student supports, teacher salaries, all the people in the school salaries, but there are also people who are listed at central office, like the custodians, the food service workers, people like that, who are part of the school and student support. So their salaries are and expenses are also included there. You will see that the central office administration is less than 8% of our total expenses. Of the 706.9 that goes to schools, 345.7 million of it is centralized for things that I mentioned before as facilities, transportation, child study teams, all of that. The amount directly allocated to schools and controlled by principals is $361.2 million. Next slide, Rob. This chart takes those same numbers and breaks it down for you. This presentation is going to be on the web, so I'm not going to spend time on this chart, but it shows you that 83.6% of our funds come from state aid and 13.4% come from the local tax levy. Next. Okay, this is once again a year-over-year comparison. It shows you the changes in state revenue. So this is only the state aid. So we see in fiscal year 1920, we had a total of $812.4 million. In fiscal year 2021, we will have $865.7 million, resulting in a $53.3 million increase year over year in state aid. Next. A lot of times we talk about adequacy. We talk about the state's adequacy and the local adequacy. Adequacy is a number that is defined by the state to determine district's ability to support itself and where the funds come from. So you see that we have an 865.7, remember that number from the previous slide. You see that as our state aid number. And you remember the tax levy, which was 138.3. What we actually should look like if we were in adequacy, right, is we would get $200,300,000 from local tax levy, and we would get $954.3 million from the state as state aid. So while state aid has been increasing year over year, this year we got a 6% increase. Newark remains below adequacy according to the school funding formula. So the formula is still not funded fully for Newark. We have to do more. You will also see that on the local adequacy side, we're going to have to do more in order to bring us to full adequacy. We will still remain $62 million below the local fair share. So that tells you what we would have as a budget if we were at adequacy and what we are working with in our actual aid. Next slide. This slide shows us our tax levy analysis. It provides for what the tax history has been for the district, beginning for almost 20 years. Prior to 2006, taxes were not raised. We've sort of modified the chart, so we're starting with 2009. You can see that we have done levies. Somewhere around 2000, I think it might have been 2013, Governor Christie put in property tax reform, which required districts to not raise their taxes more than 2%. We have done that every year except one since then. And actually it was I think it was 2009 if I remember correctly. But since 2009, we have increased taxes by $39.2 million, and we're still behind on adequacy. Next slide. Hello? Okay. Property taxes. It is important that while we are raising taxes by $2.7 million, that the community understands that if a property is assessed at $175,000, the property tax will increase actually by $28.53 for the year. For the year, ladies and gentlemen, for that $2.7 million tax increase. Next slide. Rob. School allocations. So for a while now, we've been doing something called the weighted student formula, and we have refined it as we have gone on through the budget process. I want to say we started this in Dr. Janey's tenure, probably sometime around about 2009. We've refined it to now reflect. We use 4 major pieces to sort of inform our decisions around funding schools. The first is enrollment projections. And with the enrollment system Newark enrolls, we now have the ability to project more accurately because we can see who's coming into our schools, how many are we getting at each grade level, and ensure that schools are funded for those number of students in the very beginning of the budget year. Weighted student formula. We have worked on this formula every year. We refine it, we rebuild it to determine per pupil amounts based on 3 things, 2 actually. Current and historical school spending levels and the actual cost to educate a student, an NPS student, based on appropriate section sizes and staffing ratios. We also have a floor plan. We've determined schools need these things to be able to open and to be able to function. So one school in the north should not have a counselor and somebody in the south does not. We have designed the floor plan to ensure that we have district mandated positions for consistency in academic and supportive services. And we also have taken care of our smaller schools. There are some schools with lower enrollment numbers. If they don't have sufficient funding, that does not allow for equity in their program offerings as compared to the larger schools. And, we want to be sure that we are equitable in as many ways as possible and ensuring that children across the district have access to the right kinds of programs and offerings. So this helps us through the formula to make some adjustments to support those smaller schools. Next. So a budget is made up of 5 key components. And you see the graphic on the side. The majority of it is made up of the weighted student funding formula, about 71%. We give foundation aid, which is actually the basics. You need a principal, you need a nurse, you need a clerk, certain things that you need, right? Then we have benefits. Benefits, as you can see, to cover employee costs for benefits in the school is 15% of the budget at that school. Centrally allocated staff are also part of the budget that's allocated to the school. The benefits are allocated. It's not being paid out of what principals control. They're allocated. And once again, we have blended and title funds. We've made sure to take care of things like nurses, security, athletic costs. You have coaches, you have dues and fees, things of that nature that make them different than elementary. Next slide. How do schools spend their 2021 budget? Well, 78% or $293 million is spent on salaries and benefits, right? Schools will have 158 new teaching positions with a net increase. We've, taken some here, added some, done various things, but it's a net increase of 23 positions. And the chart below shows you teachers, aides, administration, and school support. You will see that we've actually made a cut in in administration across the district. This is not just, well, yes, it is just schools. In schools, we've made some cuts in administration to ensure that we can make sure that children have what they need. And you see the $376 million as it is broken down. Next. This is our waterfall slide, and I want you to read from left to right. We needed 39.8 million to bridge to a balanced budget. What caused that 39.8 million? If you look at the left side of the chart as we are facing it now, the red, thanks for the pointer, whoever's doing that. The red items are the items that made up that 39.8. So remember, we had a $20.5 million increase in charters. We did an increase in salaries of 2.7. That's across the district, you know, our teachers, everything, averaging them out. We had an increase in benefits, which thanks to superintendent's leadership, we were able to realize a very low increase. 2.6 is very low. It averages somewhere in the neighborhood of 9-10 million a year, because we were able to renegotiate our contracts for medical and health benefits. We are opening 2 new schools, the School of Global Studies and the Sir Isaac Newton Elementary School. There's a cost to open those. We have to renovate the buildings, paint it, do whatever. We have to buy furniture. We have to ensure they have books. We have to ensure they have teachers. All of that is a cost. And we invested in our instructional technology, which is our smart boards, 1.3 million. And the Chromebooks we're talking about is part of our instructional technology. So that is something that we've done. In order to balance the budget, let us look at the gray segments. So we cut supplies by 8 million. We cut our purchase services. Now, this does not mean that programs or services were cut to students. What it means is we looked at the budget, we analyzed it, and when we did our analysis, we looked to see what did we do in 1920 that we're not going to have to do again in 2021. So in 1920, we bought textbooks, right? Math textbooks. We're not going to have to buy math textbooks next year. We may need to buy science textbooks, which will have to reallocate the money, right? So we removed one-time expenditures. In terms of our tax levy, we also said we're going to use a 2% tax levy, which is that 2.7 million. Once again, $28 per household. And we use $17.4 million of our fund balance. That is why fund balance is important, so that you have it to draw upon. Rob, next slide. So we see here our investments and anticipated costs increases, right? So we have an increase year over year in salaries of 12.3 million. That's contractual, as well as people getting just a regular cost of living. Benefits, we had 2.6 million increase. Equipment, we increased and invested in buying smart boards and technology. New schools, we're investing in the 2 new schools, and our charter expense, we had to put $20.5 million to cover the charter expansion, and charters this year got an increase in their per pupil cost. So our total investment and anticipated cost increases, $39.8 million. Next slide. This is something that we put in based on Superintendent Leon's recommendation, provided some additional detail on charter schools. So you will see every charter listed here. You will see their fiscal year 2021 projected cost. You will see what their 1920 cost was as of 10/15/19, which is the October 15th count. And you will see the variance that we will be paying for 2021 fiscal year, right? So Achieve Charter received 3.2 million in 1920. In 2021, they are receiving 6.2 million. They have had an increase in enrollment, and that per pupil number that I talked about. So now that's a difference of 2.9 million. Is that you, Superintendent?
No, that's me, taping the, sorry.
Okay, so we see
I get excited when I see big numbers.
Achieve through Hoboken. Next slide, Rob. Hudson, Arts and Science through North Star. Yes, we send kids to places, charters outside of the district, and we have to pay for them because they are newer kids. Yes, we do. Metz, you will see, is closed. So, or will be closing, I'm sorry, at the end of June. And we anticipate that we will not have to pay that 2.5 million. Next slide. So our total cost for charters is an increase in reality of $38 million year over year. Now, remember, I said we're only putting 20.5 million towards charters. That comes from analysis that we have done. I think the next slide will explain that. But this slide provides you with a total and an understanding of what the charter expense is for the district. Next slide. Okay, that's, go back one slide, Rob, please. Okay, there was a slide, no, the next one. Next one. Last charter, this one. So I said to you that, you know, we only budgeted 20.5. So what I'm going to say to you tonight is that there is a structural gap in our budget. We are required and notified by the state to pay $307 million in charter costs. We are only going to budget $288 million based on our trend analysis. Over the years, we have seen that charters do not meet their enrollment projections. And because they do not meet those projections, we are not going to set aside district money that we would have to release later in the year, because that creates a stress on our budget. It creates us having to make cuts of probably almost another $20 million in order to balance, and then they don't make their enrollment. So we get the money back. But by then, we have cut programs, we have cut teachers, we have cut various things that we may not have needed. Now, if the money does become due and they make the enrollment, we will have to ensure that we have it somewhere to make the payment. But for now, we are budgeting $288 million for charter growth in Newark, which is an increase of $20.5 million year over year. Okay, next slide. So we have to look ahead. You know, when you do budget, you look at the previous year, the current year, and the future year. We still have some legal matters that we have talked about. Things are getting better, but we still have some outstanding risks. They are listed as our 5 legal matters. We are still completing our needs assessments in the areas of facilities and other places, and we intend to implement recommendations. You know, we know that if they make their enrollment, the charters, we will have to pay another $18 million. So that's a risk. We have to watch that all year long. In 21-22, we've appropriated some of our fund balance in the 2021 school year, and we must have available at the end of fiscal year 19-20 that money. And if it's not available, we would be required to make significant budget reductions. And of course, we're going to open new schools in 21-22. We will have to put aside money in 2021 to ensure that we have that base to start with in 21-22. Next slide.
Can you give us a total amount of the amount that all of those risks will cost the district really quickly while you're on it?
I don't have the Mastriani decision. I know the superintendent has worked diligently on that. The Affordable Care Act We've seen bills as high as $11 and $12 million, but we have been able to work with the IRS. It's not as though we owe them, and this is for each year. It's not as though we owe them that money. Special ed, I can't give you a number. DOJ bilingual, I don't have an exact number. Civil service could, we're working on that now. There are not numbers associated with them because we don't have actual numbers, but we know we have to be on the watch for them. But staff and the superintendent are actively working to resolve the matters. I can tell you on the Affordable Care Act, we're doing really well because that one I know based on who we have working, how long they've worked, and whether or not we have to offer them benefits and whether or not we've met the requirements. Because a lot of people think the ACA went away when the administration changed, but some of the requirements of it did not. So we have to continually be vigilant. That's the best answer I can give you, Mr. Bledsoe.
Yeah, thank you for the FYI. It's just an FYI. Thanks.
Next slide, Rob. CDS updates. CDS, don't ask me what it stands for because I can never remember. It is the central system that the state uses to name schools. That's how schools get their name, and then we begin to identify them within the school budgets with their location codes. So Sir Isaac Newton will open this year with a pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, and first grade, and we will expand by each grade thereafter. So they're going to be set up for those 3 grades. New York School of Global Studies will open with grade 9 and will expand thereafter. And these schools were available in New York Enroll, so children were able to select them. The East Ward Elementary School, which has been open for 2 years now, will expand to grade 3. And Roberta Clemente, Franklin, and Salome Urenia is expanding to grade 6 this year. And Harriet Tubman will expand to grade 7. New York Vocational will expand to grade 10. They began with grade 9 this year. All of these expansions will allow us to offer our students opportunities to remain in the district and choices that are good for them and their families. Next slide.
CDS is County District School System by the department.
Thank you, Mr. Bledsoe. I can never remember it. New departments. We're still working on a gifted and talented program, an alternative ed, and an adult ed. Notice at the bottom, pending availability of funds, right? We got a sizable state aid increase, but we also had a sizable charter cost increase as well as other costs within the district. Next. And I think this is close to our last slide. It is imperative that everybody votes on May 12th. Everybody who can and who is a resident of Newark, vote for your preferred candidates. You are to select 3 and vote yes on the ballot budget question. It is extremely important. So be sure to remember that date, May 12th, 2020. Next slide. In conclusion, I want to review our budget for 2021 in highlights. We've increased funding through the additional state aid we received, which was an increase of 6.6%. We have made academic investments to the tune of $19.6 million more directly to schools than in 1920. That's going to help us better support and fund additional teachers, bilingual programming, special ed programming, curriculum adoptions, academic interventions, and restoration of underutilized and offline district schools. We are doing that, $19.6 million. We're also investing in critical technology. Our facility needs, we're trying to invest in them, but it is a strain on the operating budget as we do not have a capital budget. We've allocated funding to work on things, and we've had the capital reserve, which you heard at the earlier meeting. We're going to draw against now to offset the cost of Newark Vocational. If we didn't have that, we'd be $4.5 million short. Managing our financial risks based on the uncertainty we still have and what the budget is for the present and the future, we will continue to identify efficiencies and cost-saving opportunities to put NPS in a more stable financial position. Madam Chair, that ends my presentation. We are available for question and answer.
Madam President.
Thank you. 1 second, Board Member Bledsoe. Thank you very much, PBA Wilson. Ms. Wilson, I have a question regarding the Assembly yesterday passed a bill A3902, which would allow the delay of the quarterly tax payment to school districts. I wanted to know, how would that affect our budget?
That would affect our budget by, we are getting a total of 138.3 million. The tax levy is kind of funny because it's split across multiple fiscal years. So if you took that and divided it by 4.
4 quarters.
If everyone can please mute yourselves while Ms. Wilson is answering.
If you took that and divided it by 4, let's say, now you're talking, what, 4 into 13 is 3, almost $30 million that we, for a quarter, 30 and more, that we would be missing. You know, and that would cause cash flow issues. It would cause, you've got to, you're gonna have to, we would have to do stringent money management. You know, we're gonna get it, and we understand it would be delayed, but it would cause us issues.
Okay, thank you, PA Wilson. Board members, this is your time for any questions
Madam President.
regarding the budget. Board Member Bledsoe.
So a couple of things. I just would like to thank Ms. Wilson for her presentation. I just would like to highlight over the years since I've been on this board, we've had, like, since this transition period, we've constantly scored high on the Chief Accountability Officer transition. Like, we score perfect scores on that. So that's something that we should constantly be commending the budget team and Ms. Wilson for. Over the last several years, we've definitely been receiving the International ASBO Award for keeping the district's budget in balance and also managing the sufficient funds to support the district's operation. I think, as you mentioned, Madam President, as we know, this impending pandemic with the coronavirus, I'm just curious to know, as you mentioned, the Assembly bill that's working its way through the legislature, how are we going to manage that, which you addressed briefly, Ms. Wilson, but using instances where we're drawing from the fund balance, I would think that things of this nature where we may see a potential delay in quarterly tax assessments from the city, that we would use fund balance to support that. So is that an option that we see that we may do in the future, to draw from the excess fund balance to pay the delayed fair share by the city of Newark? And also, too, can you also, before I finish, can you also clarify for the members of the public, when you talk about adequacy, where should we be in terms of adequacy, in terms of the local fair share? And also, lastly, just in the event that we do not get a great number of participation in the school board election, can you highlight for the public the process that the district would have to take in order to get our budget approved? That process involves managing or having some discussions with the city council. And then in the event the city council don't agree, then that process, as I mentioned last year, would have to go to the county superintendent. And then there's also a process where the Commissioner of Education will have to involve himself in the ultimate approval. So just for the educating the members of the public, because, you know, we're saying a lot of acronyms, we're saying a lot of the process, but it's better and easier if we explain in the layman's terms, just so the members of the public understand the seriousness of voting yes on the ballot, or reminding folks to mail in their ballots, to actively participate. So can you take her from there?
Sure. So you've answered I'll start with the last piece. You've answered the process for the review of the budget. Should the public turn down the budget or defeat the budget, it requires us to then go before the mayor and the city council. And if they in turn it down, we can appeal through the county superintendent of schools and up through the commissioner. But at that point, the district loses the ability to make its own cuts. Cuts will be made for us. So that's really important for the voting public to understand.
Those cuts, city council's recommendations.
Yes, that too. So that is extremely important for everybody to understand. In addition, can I ask Rob to pull up slide 7, please? So this slide is actually the slide that talks about Newark's adequacy status, right? And you'll remember I talked about all of our aid being $865.7 million from the state for the 2021 budget. In reality, we should actually get $954.3 million from the state. With regards to the local fair share, the orange bar at the top and follow the dotted lines, we get $138,300,000 for the 2021 school year. But remember, the school year straddles calendar years. So it starts in July and it goes through June of 21. So those payments would total up to that 138 at that time. In reality, we should be getting $200.3 million. And why this is important is if you read the School Funding Reform Act, you will see that it says districts who should qualify for any additional aid or enrollment increases will have to be at adequacy before they can get any additional money. So the state never funded the 2007 funding formula. They never fully funded it. So now they're beginning to increase their share. If you took my presentation from last year and looked at this slide, you would see that it's less, right? I mean, that this year is, they've given us more money, $53 million more. When they get to adequacy on the state side, we will not get anything if the funding formula is not revised. And we would have to ensure that we get our local fair share. Elvis, is there something you wanted to add?
Yeah, if I may, Ms. Wilson. So to just add to your point, is that the state is sort of chipping away at that gap, right? And one of the points that the superintendent wanted us to drive home and that we want you to take away from this presentation is two things, right? One is that at some point we're going to have to sort of come to the table and as a district sort of do our part to close that gap, right? Which means addressing the tax levy increases, right? That's one. Secondly, to refer back to sort of the gap or the structural deficit, right? That 39.8 million that we balanced, that would have been closer, that would have been basically 57.8 million, right? Had we budgeted the full amount for those charter schools. So those are two things that you want to make sure that you clearly understand coming away from this presentation. That's all.
Thanks, Elvis. So the third part of your question, Mr. Bledsoe, what about if we don't get the money from the city? We would have to offer something called tax anticipation notes. We would have to go out into the financial marketplace and borrow money, which when we get our tax levy payment, we would pay off the bond.
Will there be any type of interest associated with that?
Sure, there's going to be interest. It might be low based on our current status, but that's a market we have never entered into, because prior to our transition from state control, the city would have been responsible to borrow for us. We may very well, as a type 2 district now, and that's a conversation we're having, we would have to borrow for ourselves. So we would be a new entity into the market, right? So we have no credit experience per se. You know, there are all those factors. So we would have to issue something called a tax anticipation note, which is actually financing to bridge us through. I hope that answers all three of your questions.
It did. Thank you. And just one last thing, Madam President, thank you for the opportunity. And again, thank you all for creating or making this presentation as detailed as possible. I'm just curious to know, extraordinary aid last year, that was reflected in the budget, and I don't recall seeing that this year. Do we anticipate applying for those funds for special needs students? And
yes, that application occurs in May, and we
Okay.
are budgeted for it, anticipating that we will get the full amount we got last year.
Currently budgeting approximately 2.2 million for extraordinary aid.
And one additional
Including
thing,
our-
there should be discussion at some point, it's probably way after my tenure, a discussion around this, the pilot program, the number of tax abatements that the city is approving. There needs to be some type of discussion. We're not asking now for the money, considering the financial crisis that's impacting the country. But there needs to be a discussion about opening the books and seeing exactly how much money is available through the pilot program. And I'm done on that note. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Board Member Bledsoe, Ms. Wilson, Mr. Matos. I think Board Member Padilla was trying to speak. If he wants a question or comment.
Yeah, I'm comment. Sitting on the finance committee now for going into my fifth year. I have to give Valerie a lot of credit, and I marvel at her work, because when I first came on the board, Elvis didn't exist. No harm, for you, Elvis, but you weren't there. Jason Ballard wasn't there, and the amount of work that goes into a presentation like this is just extremely unbelievable. And I think all the board members asked very good questions, but it always baffles me when people and different entities want to, they want to show financial transparency. And I'm like, if you want to ask Ms. Wilson for financial transparency, good luck with that, because I think you do a hell of a job. So for you and your team, I just want to say that. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you,
Board Member Padilla. Any other questions, board members?
Yes, Board President.
Board Member Marie Thomas.
Thank you, Board President. And Tafe, thank you so much for that comment, because you're absolutely right. It goes without saying that we have an incredible BA and an incredible team. And so we thank you for everything you do to make sure that we are financially stable and transparent in what the process looks like. Just a few questions. First is a follow-up from the conversation we had maybe about a week or so ago when you gave the kind of primer information or the presentation to small groups of board members, and this is just about the per pupil cost. So we know that with the increase in the amount that we have to give to the charter schools, the charter's actual per pupil cost is increasing. My question is, what is the actual per pupil cost for the district students, and how does those numbers compare to the per pupil cost previous school year? Second question is as it relates to local fair share. So we know that pretty much a considerable, if not all, of the local fair share monies are coming from property taxes. About what % of taxes from corporations, small businesses actually go to the school district, and how does that affect us in terms of local fair share? And then last two questions. One is just last, just a general kind of update on the fundraising strategies for the capital budget. You guys have been working extensively to make sure that I know currently we don't have a capital budget, but that's obviously a priority. And so just an update on that. And then lastly, schools. So we know that we'll incur a cost of about $3.1 million just to get the schools in action. But is there kind of potential increase in funding or revenue? Do we get more schools? Is there more? What's the projected numbers of increase in funding that we'll get from having potentially new students in the district who will either be attending those schools or will be in the district more broadly?
All right, let me see if I can remember all of your questions. The first one was regards to per pupil comparison between district and charter. Currently, our per pupil is about $19,000 per child. Charters are somewhere around 15K. And these are round numbers that I'm giving you. So we're about 4,000 more per child than charters at this point in time. I can't remember all your questions, but I'm going to try to
reissue. I actually have a quick follow-up on the per pupil one. And so that 15, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Thomas, you asked several questions.
Thank you, Val.
Okay,
so I'm just trying to be helpful. That's all.
Can you hold a second? Board members and Board Member Murray Thomas, can you mute please while Ms. Wilson responds to your several questions? Thank you.
I have been muting. I have been.
Okay.
It's never an issue for me. Thank you.
In terms of new schools, those new schools would not bring us additional revenue until the next year. Because remember, they don't get counted till the October 15th count. And it's the district as a whole. So the entire district number would increase. And that's why the October 15th count and the lunch applications are so extremely important, because those are going to determine what we get funded for in the next year. So come September, everybody needs to be doing their lunch application, and we need to count every child in every seat. What were the other components of your questions?
Thank you, Madam BA. So you actually touched on the first two. The last two were just about general updates on raising funds for the capital budget. And then just, in terms of the local fair share, was there a portion of monies from corporations and small businesses that contribute to the district's budget?
Okay, local fair share. I cannot tell you how much the corporations contribute, because that is part of the city's municipal tax. So they merge it all together. I tell them what we need, and then they do a tax levy for everybody, right? So I don't know how much of the corporation comes in. That's the city BA's purview. With regards to capital reserve, we have been working every year to try to put $1 million or so of our budget into capital reserve. That's how come we had that 4.5. We did it over like 2-3 years. But that's if I have money that I can allocate after I've done everything else. What we do not have is a capital budget, which will allow us to do some significant repairs and maintenance, health and safety wise, to our buildings. We did get the city to issue notes for us about 2 years ago, and there are some legal issues that we are trying to work out because the statute is not clear. The notes have been issued, but now that we have become a type 2 district, we have to address who holds the debt service, meaning the interest on the bonds or notes. And that's kind of where we are right now. So there's about 30 million sitting out there in notes with the city that they are more than willing to have us use, but we have to resolve those legal issues first. And the statute is silent on that for a district coming out of state control. As always, Newark is leading the way. It is my hope and aspiration that we would eventually bond for ourselves, a significant bond to allow us to do the kinds of work that we have been so limited in doing and not take it from the operational budget. But to do that, we're going to have to levy taxes, and we're going to have to actually pay interest. So, you know, we got to operate as a business for ourselves. I want to remind everybody that the ballot for the budget is going to be mailed to you on May 12th. Please look out for it and be sure to send it back.
Thank you, Board Member Marie Thomas. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Any other board member questions?
Madam Chair, Board Member Norton.
Board Member Norton.
Thank you, Madam BA and the finance team for the presentation. The amount of work that goes into putting in creating presentations of this magnitude is truly impressive, and also to our principals and our district leaders who ensures that their budget is capturing community voice as much as possible, whether it be hosting community forums at their schools and or creating student input committees. The district definitely has been doing an amazing job getting to that point, and I know that we're going to continue to make progress in that area. I wanted to make 2 points, and Madam BA, you definitely already pointed that out, that we're no longer going to be going to the polls to cast our ballots or answering the question, and so making sure that's reflective on the district website, that it is going to be a mail-in ballot, and so just making sure that we have that edited and posted on the district website accordingly. And then also, one of my favorite things a part of this budget is the intentionality of going into our HBCUs, our historical Black colleges, to recruit teachers that are reflective of our communities. Being able to listen on to the HR, human resource budget defense, and them being very explicit about making sure that funds are set aside to send district employees to go to our HBCUs to recruit these teachers. And so that's one thing that I'm truly excited about this budget including. But also, Val, can you just speak a little bit more onto the tax anticipation notes? You said that we're going to be new, we're going into the market. Can you just explain what that means, what does market mean? Me personally, I'm not familiar with that. And so I can only imagine members in the community not being privy to it as well. And so if we're going to be going that direction, can you just give us more insight about what that means, Val?
Sure. I'm not saying we're definitely going to do that, but let's say the bill that is working its way through the legislature gets passed. I think it already is. If it's passed and it applies, right? And we go into a situation where we are having a cash flow issue. Cash flow meaning, and this is where Mr. Cannella becomes really important. Cash flow meaning we know we're going to get money, but it's delayed. But our expenses like payroll are essential expenses. Like payroll, payment for benefits. I might stop paying some other things that are not essential, but those are two essential ones I must continue. We would then go to the financial industry, to the banks, and say, we need to borrow, we need to issue some tax anticipation notes. We know we're going to get 2.7 million from the city eventually, or a portion of that, not 2.7, the 30 odd million, that is the quarterly payment, right? We know we're going to get it. We don't know when, and we need money to run our operations now. That is what a tax anticipation note would be. People buy them, investors buy them, and then you use that money to pay your bills until you get the money from the city. That's an option. It is not guaranteed that we will do that. Of course, Pablo and I and the rest of the financial team will have to sit down and look at where we are financially. Can we make it through without doing that?
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Norton and Board Member Johnson.
Yes, I don't have any questions.
Okay, any other question, board members?
Yes, one really quickly. Thank you.
Once Board Member Murray, let me try to give an opportunity to the other board members that haven't spoken, and then I can circle back around to you, please. Thank you. Board Member Anderson Gomez. Sure, if there's here. You're good. Board Member Gomez. Okay, she's not responding. Board Member Murray Thomas, and then I would like to move on to our community, please, who's waiting for several questions.
It's Board Member Gomez.
Sorry, Board Member Gomez. There she goes. Go ahead.
All right, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Board Member Murray Thomas. So I can go to the community after this, please.
Thank you, Board President. I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that you said 19.6 more million dollars will be going directly into schools. And I just wanted to commend the work of the district, the superintendent, our Madam BA, for making sure that we have more money going into our schools, specifically with the plan to target developing 3 new departments that we desperately need. And the superintendent has said he will continue to make a priority. So it's great to see that this is one. The alternative education department, the gifted and talent department, and the adult education department. Obviously, I know that is pending certain funds, but I just didn't want to miss the import of making sure that we have funding for those departments and making sure those monies are going back into schools. In the list that was included, and again, I know it's tentative, for where the $19.6 million more funds were going to. A lot of it was related to, personnel in the buildings and school operations. I would just hope that we also, in that conversation, more funding for after school programs, more things for our kids to do out of school time would also be a part of the plan for what those new monies that that are coming into district, where those new monies will be directed.
Okay. One of the areas I can tell you for sure that we are considering is a science adoption. So that will be part of that 19.6. As we went through budget reviews and we went school by school, classroom by classroom, with all the principals and all of the assistant superintendents and several other central office team members. We looked at class sizes. We made sure that classes were supported to the full level, and what I mean by that is the class size ratio. So if 24 kids at a certain grade level, we made sure that we budgeted for the 24 at that level. What we also did was we really took a stringent look at where our special ed programs are and where our bilingual programs are, and if there were things that were lacking. So we looked at resource and made sure that was properly covered. We looked at bilingual and made sure that we put positions in. We are hoping to find candidates, qualified candidates, but we did make those investments. Okay?
Ms. Wilson, in addition,
Go ahead, Elvis.
Just to add, in addition, above and beyond, the cost that it's going to, the cost will incur for teachers, new teachers, programmatic things. There's also the money that is going directly to, whether it's asbestos remediations, getting the schools ready, the new schools, right? Some of the monies that are budgeted centrally, but that go in direct support of the schools, right? And so that's some of that. You'll also get some of that in that $19 million, just to clarify.
Thank you for that. Helpful.
Any other questions or comments, board members? So to Ms. Deering or Rob, do we have any questions in the queue from any of our participants on this call?
Yes, there are.
Okay, if Nancy, I'm not sure if you want to read them out.
Sure.
Thank you.
It's $1 million difference, which definitely adversely impacts programming and instruction. Are we still not building out budgets based on enrollment? Also, we were informed.
Nancy, I have to answer them one at a time so I can keep track.
Okay.
They said $1 million difference.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what that $1 million difference is, if the person can write in and clarify their question, but we are investing in schools and we are investing in classes to ensure that we have the right tools, the right people, and the right equipment available to support our classes. I'm not sure if I answered the question. If not, your question back up. Go ahead, Nancy.
Just to clarify, Ms. Daring, anywhere where you see a reduction, nowhere are we impacting any programmatic areas or anywhere that it affects the students, right? What you're seeing, where you see certain lines have a reduction, it's the reallocation of monies that we're using to cover other needs in the district. So for example, to Ms. Wilson's point earlier, you may see that supplies and services may be going down, right? It's not supplies to the students. It's just that, to her point earlier, when we had a $10 million adoption between math and literacy. We're not going to have to do that again next year, right? So we use those dollars to do other things in the district where needed.
Okay, the next question. Are we still
before you do that,
out?
Ms. Daring, before you do that, can you state the name of the person for the record, just so that we're capturing the comments from the members of the public? Thank you.
Certainly. Ms. Wilhelmina Holder. The second part of the question, are we still not building out budgets based on enrollment?
Our budgets were built based on enrollment and projected enrollment. So yes, we are using enrollment as a feature of our weighted student formula. That was the second bullet on the slide where I talked about how schools are funded. Sorry.
Okay. So the next question. Also, are we informed Title I monies are added to the top of the budget?
Title I monies are blended into Fund 15. They are, and that is because we are a former Abbott district. That has not gone away, even though Abbott has been replaced. So that's why we do line by line for schools. If you look at other districts who were not Abbott's, they do like one fund. We do several. And Title I monies also show in Fund 20 on the school's budget. That's my answer.
Next question comes from Ms. Cole. What's the actual operating budget after charter payments?
Rob, I need you to go to, Elvis, do you have it handy? I'm looking at it. Take away 285 million from 800 from $1 billion 35. So if you take, Ms. Cole, I apologize for not doing the math online, I'm sorry. But if you take 285.3 million, which is our charter school payment, and take it away from 1,035.6. Elvis, you did the math?
It's the 750 that you see on the where does the money go. So if you go to that slide and you refer to that slide, you'll see that the third column in from the left, your charter payment is gone, and that's what's remaining of your operating budget after charter payments.
And the slide is slide 4, Ms. Cole.
Yeah, right. There you go. Yep.
There it is.
750, right.
Okay. Next, Nancy.
It's from Mr. Brown, Mr. Lyndon Brown. Parent and community concerns recommendations were not a part of the school budget planning at many of the schools. Handouts and PowerPoints were generic. Will there be an opportunity for parents to contribute?
We have been trying very diligently to ensure, even in our schedules and in the community meetings that we are having at schools, I will say to you that we will continue to work on that. We gave them a script, but it had places where they were to insert school-specific information. We will continue to work on how we can better engage the community as we continue through the budgeting process. I mean, there's some discussion on financial policy that is occurring right now based on some advocates. I'm not going to talk about it, but based on some advocates have made some suggestions. So we are constantly looking for ways to improve.
So again, from Mr. Brown, will parents and community voices be heard virtually on budget concerns and recommendations?
I think that's what we're doing now, right?
Okay. All right. Again, from Mr. Brown, how will current school closures impact our current school budget and 2020-2021 school budgets?
We're not closing any schools. In fact, we are opening 2. And increasing grade levels in several schools, as I identified in my presentation. There are at least 4 or 5 schools that we are increasing at least 1 grade level apiece. And we are opening 2 brand new schools, Global Studies and the Isaac Newton Elementary School.
Ms. Wilson, just to be clear, just in case the question is more geared towards what we're currently dealing with as far as the COVID-19 pandemic and schools closing currently. We're assessing that every day. We don't have a number for you. That's something that we're dealing with because this is all new. And so we're in the process of assessing that, what the impact is going to be. Obviously, with some schools closing, there's certain things, you won't be paying for, but there's other costs incurred as a result of what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So we don't have a good answer right now if that is what your question is really referring to.
And if you're talking about the impact of charter funding, we have already made, substantial, substantial strategies in place to protect the district's budget. The discussion I had on charter costs and how we are budgeting for them, in fact, protects the district by another $20 million. So we're doing everything to ensure that our students get the majority of the money that is available.
And the last statement is not really a question, but it's a reminder from Ms. Cole to make sure that folks ask their district leaders about the mail-in ballots. It will be mailed directly to their homes, and they have to give it to their mail person. And that ends the questions that were in the window.
So let me end my presentation with, please, I implore you to vote for the district's budget and to select the appropriate candidates of your choice. We are here to serve, we are here to support, and happy to do so. And I hope you have found this to be informative. Madam Chair, Superintendent Leon, I think, has some remarks.
Thank you, School Business Administrator. Madam President, I take this opportunity to actually recognize the board for what I thought were yet once again absolutely incredible questions that would require folks in the community as well as those who asked questions for us just now. Just really appreciate all of you for that. wanted to recognize the school business administrator, former employee of ours who has been instrumental in this entire process, Shirley Zachary. I want to recognize, and you heard from him, our budget director, Elvis Matos, and the entire budget team for what I would consider to be an absolutely incredible job. I also want to take this opportunity to create a focal point and then just get into a couple of brief highlights before the board votes. The highly skilled professional that has been assisting us during this whole entire transition, a couple of months prior to my start, and definitely throughout this entire transition phase, that Mrs. Nelms has been super important. In fact, I would argue critical to where we actually are today. I think that, and I humbly say this and respectfully say this, that I believe we were going to be at a great place anyway. But I must reassure you that her alongside of us, that it was guaranteed to be successful. And I'll be the first to say we are nowhere where this district is going to be, but I assure you and want you to rest assured that where we're going will be second to none. The Deputy Superintendent, Ms. Nicole Johnson, has transitioned herself into this role, shouldering a great significant burden as well as learning throughout the process, and I obviously wanted to recognize her. I have 5 assistant superintendents, the 4 that are assigned to the schools in Kathy Duke Jackson, Mr. Fuentes, Dr. Harrington, and Dr. Santos, and obviously here in central office with the teaching and learning team, Dr. Riley. The brain power of the work is what will actually get us to where we need to go. And it's so reassuring because we have Carolyn Granado in charge of special education. We have, even though early childhood is a separate budget, we have Samantha Lott-Velez overseeing that work. We have the new office, the Office of Student Life with Executive Director Maria Ortiz, and the Office of Policy Planning, Evaluation, and Testing with Rashonda Jackson. And then obviously with our Grants Executive Director, she leads in this state in this work with over $20 million in grants that we are utilizing to really assist us in not assessing where we are, but defining where we are going. A few highlights. The way that the budget, and I believe that Ms. Holder asked this question, I applaud and appreciate her for that. We are assessing the budget based on where we're going, because we can't do it from where we've been. So NPS Clarity 2020 is an assessment of the last 23 years, 24 years now, as we've transitioned out of local control 2 months, actually 1 month ago. The next decade or the next 10 years, we're doing this budget not based on what we have, but on the vision of the next 10 years. We have a structural deficit. We've had a structural deficit for, in fact, the years. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the leadership in Trenton, in particular that of the commissioner, because the decision to give us $53 million of what we needed is something that I know we will demonstrate to the incredible citizens of this great state that we will utilize those dollars wisely. Small schools have always been in a compromising situation, so we've actually created the budget to protect the schools that enrollment are in fact small, and that unfortunately in some school districts, superintendents have had to make the decision of actually closing schools. We have 2 new schools this year, and we have 2 new schools next year. We have all of these new academies that are opening up in our comprehensive high schools, because what we've learned over the last 23 years is that people have gotten comfortable in the city of Newark. They get all of this money, and what do they do with the children? So the district is trying to model for everyone who thinks that educating children in Newark is important by letting people know that we can't do business the way we've been doing business. And I'm talking to all of the schools that are in the city of Newark, and I'm not only talking about the ones that I currently govern over. We are obviously opening up a couple of new departments. We know that we need them. The Office of Alternative Education, it sends a message to our students where school the way it is right now isn't working for you. Well, we're going to create school where it does. Adult education. We have citizens in Newark who want to get their high school diploma, but because of the way life is, life impacted and impacts everyone differently. I have sisters who have graduated with GEDs, and I have sisters who have actually finished and received high school diplomas. I understand that it's hard to be a parent in our city and trying to improve without having that paper in your hand. So adult education is going to revisit for the lives of the citizens of Newark what in fact your realities can be, so that anybody who's a mommy right now who has a student that's in high school and that baby is getting a diploma in a couple of months, I'm telling that mom or that single dad right now that if you're looking for a high school diploma too, we are the organization that's going to make that happen for you. What are we going to do with money? How are we going to spend it? We know that extended classroom experiences are extremely important, and we are working really hard at designing 4 extended classroom experiences for every student in every grade. You know, Mr. Brown always asks incredible questions to make sure we're on our toes. So we need the community's help to say, these are some ideas of what we think should in fact happen. While we're allocating dollars, we're not limiting ideas. In 1 year's time, ladies and gentlemen, we have increased enrollment by over 1,000 students in this school district. You know why? Because we're actually changing our schools. Why are students voting with their feet to come to Newark schools? Because we're actually worthy of them. Our magnet schools are the most preferred schools in the city of Newark, and our comprehensive high schools are gonna work really, really hard to get that type of acknowledgement. The school business administrator focused on some legal matters, and she's saying, you know, we're gonna get through this, but I want you to be clear, those legal matters she was talking about, 5 legal matters in particular, occurred prior to this administration. So it is not this administration's legal matters, it's this administration's resolution of $80 million of legal cases that were left at my superintendent's desk before I became superintendent. Enrollment follows the children. So what we have to do in Newark schools is say, you know what? We have to increase enrollment so that we're addressing the needs of our students. But I want to be clear, there are different types of schools. Some of them are charters, some of them are vocational schools, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, some of them are led by the Archdiocese of Newark that are doing absolutely incredible jobs, that have not been sitting waiting for life to pass them by. They're actually impacting children's lives today. And this superintendent is worried about all of the boys and girls and all of the ladies and gentlemen who live in this city and decide, and their parents decide that they attend these schools here. So a special message to any parent who's out there, or a parent who resides and works in Newark or works outside of Newark, but your child does not attend any of our schools. I share with you this, that there are incredible opportunities for your child to attend our schools, and our schools is broadly defined as any school that's dedicated to educating children in this city and educating ever so well. The PowerPoint is true, is a standard lock PowerPoint. This was something that the late Dr. Janey did in the district that I thought was brilliant, and that we did it too. But it is defined, as the school business administrator mentioned, by the brilliance of the principals and staff at the schools, as well as the input at community meetings that every school was required to have. To the citizens of the only city that I love, you've already heard it more than enough times, but it will continue to be said again and again and again. I am the superintendent of Newark Schools, born and raised in this city, and I have to tell you, I am so proud of it. And no pandemic is gonna allow the strength and greatness of this city not to be able to see the bright light at the start of the next day. But to our citizens, we actually need you to vote. The vote, as you've already heard, is on May 12th. It is extremely important that you vote yes on the budget. This will allow us to afford all of the children in the city of Newark not only to attend the school of their choosing, but to allow them and afford them the incredible opportunity of having a better tomorrow, because we know that that only occurs with an incredible education, and that is provided in school. Madam President, thank you for allowing me to bring these closing remarks on behalf of the district, and I thank all of the board members for your great questions.
Thank you, Superintendent Leon. Thank you, board members who are still on with us tonight. Thank you to our Newark community. Thank you to our BA, Ms. Wilson. You do a phenomenal job every year, not just this year. I'm happy we were able to actually do it virtually. I hope we have a lot of participants. Again, to our listening community, please remember, let's try to flatten this curve, stay home. Please look at our resources on the City of Newark's website page. You can also tune in every day at 5 o'clock as Mayor Raz Baraka addresses our community every day with updates regarding COVID-19. I wish you guys a healthy quarantine. Please stay home. Please, 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 I cannot emphasize as much as we need to. We have over 80 cases in the city of Newark, and it's, very detrimental on our citizens. To Superintendent Leon, thank you for having that passion, that drive that you do with our school district. Thank you to my Vice Chair, Dawn Haynes, who's with us tonight also. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and listening to our regular board meeting and now our budget hearing. Thank you so, so much.
Madam President, we got to vote on the two resolutions.
Yes.
The
Right, but I just want to,
operating budget.
I know that, Reggie. I just wanted to give a couple of remarks before we move on to the motion to adopt this year's budget.
Motion.
This is a motion.
Ms. Liz has to read it. Ms. Liz, yes, thank you.
It's a motion to approve the resolution for approval of the fiscal year 2020-21 budget.
Motion.
Ms. Norton.
Second by Board Member Gomez.
Second by Ms. Gomez. We'll do a roll call. Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia?
Yes.
Ms. Gomez?
Yes.
Ms. Haynes? Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Murray Thomas?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Norton?
Yes.
Mr. Padilla?
Yes.
Motion carries. Nothing further. We need a motion.
We have to approve the traveling budget and that dollar amount as well, separate from the operating budget.
The resolution covers both items.
Thank you, Val.
Last year we did separate votes on both of them. So this year we're doing something differently?
That I'm aware, but the resolution you are approving covers both items, so we should be good.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion, Norton.
I'm sorry.
Board Member Gomez.
Board Member Johnson, thank you.
I apologize. I just wanted to say that we lost one of Weekway alumni today due to the coronavirus. And so I know you had mentioned earlier to do the moment of silence for the student that we had lost as well. And he was his name was DJ Hutch. And
we can't put his name on the record, please. Thank you.
I'm sorry. It was just all over social media already. Right. It was already my family. So I just wanted to take a moment of silence and just acknowledge him because he was a staple in the community and he mentored a lot of students as well in our district who were up and coming DJs as well. So just wanted to take a moment of silence for him. That's all.
Ms. Liz?
We have a motion to adjourn by Ms. Norton. Do we hear a second?
Second, Board Member Gomez.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Gomez?
Yes.
Ms. Haynes?
Yes.
Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Murray Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Norton?
Yes.
Dia?
Yes.
Motion carried. Meeting adjourned 7:42.
Thank you, everyone. Be safe.
Everybody.